Hello, everybody. Welcome to Hellbent Holler Live, our weekly live stream we hold every Monday. We want to thank you guys for joining us, and we are looking forward to tonight's live stream. We have been busy little bees for the past week, so we have lots to talk about. Let's go ahead and take that background music down. I hope everybody's ready for a great show. All right. We have a lot of people in the chat that we recognize, of course. We want to thank you guys for joining us and coming back every week. So Joe is going to load up his real quick.
And you go ahead and start up. So
yeah. Hey guys, how you doing? Mikey likes it, says, new episode was great. Thanks, dude. I really appreciate it. We had a lot of fun doing it. We went to the LBL right after the Dogman conference, and it was awesome. The conference itself was really, really cool. We were able to meet Martin Groves there, Dewey Edwards, also known as the Deuster in the chat. So we were able to meet them, and that was definitely a highlight. All right, I'm going to go back in the chat a little bit and kind of catch up. You guys got started before we did. War Criminal 7, you are in the house. What's up, my friend? I think you were camping this weekend, weren't you? War Criminal 7 said, I had the craziest night ever at LBL last night. I believe it. I absolutely believe it. That place is nuts. Every time we go there and every time we stay there, it just gets out of hand. As you guys can tell in our videos, it tends to get out of hand. Sure.
War Criminal 7 said he got ate up with chiggers. Yep. Welcome. We're waiting till the first cold spell to go back at this point. We'll wait for the first big frost, and then we'll head back to the LBL after that. Matt Keenan, hello. James Barker. It's got a lot of familiar faces in tonight. So Jill Duck, hello.
Hello, Jill. The Deuster says a lot of hunters in LBL this past weekend. I believe it. It is. We are into hunting season. Make sure you wear your Blaze Orange. We need to probably get some Blaze Orange Hellbent Holler hats, huh?
Yeah, exactly.
That'd be awesome. So. All right. Yep, a lot of people in here already. Make sure you hit that like button. That always gets us up in the algorithm. So we're trying to get up there. We really appreciate it. Cryptid Response. Hellbent Holler is making Mondays great again. This one's been a mess. Sorry to hear you're having a terrible Monday, but yes, and we're making cryptozoology dangerous again.
And I'm not sure if that person's in the chat tonight, but the guy that runs Cryptid Response, I'm not sure if you want me to use your real name or not, but we're talking earlier, and somebody over the past few weeks had talked about having a Dogman sighting near Charlottesville, Virginia. And we were trying to remember who that was without going through the chat. So if you're on here tonight, if you could chime in, we were looking to get a little bit more information from you. So David's on here from Timberline Bigfoot. David, how are you doing? So
I hope everybody made it through the hurricane okay. I know that my parents got, they had to come up here and stay with us for a couple of days, but they're fine. They just got back to Florida. And they've got some damage, but it could have been much worse. So we are very, very happy about that.
Shane's Workshop. Hey, buddy, how are you? Thanks for the extra content last week. Yeah, we were afraid we were kind of getting a little overexposed last week. We had a live stream, a podcast, and then finally brought out the LBL field investigation. We're probably not going to have a podcast this week. Matter of fact, we're not going to have a podcast.
No, we're not having a podcast this week.
We went out this weekend and had some pretty wild stuff happen that we're still trying to process and go through the footage and go through all the audio and everything like that. So we are not going to have a podcast, but we probably will have a video for this outing coming up end of this weekend.
Yeah. So I should be releasing that this week. It's going to be another field investigation video. This is going to be in North Georgia in our regular research area that we've been in for a long time.
When know we've been going there for a couple years, 3 years now, right? So, and it's gotten progressively stranger and stranger and stranger. We went there originally looking into like Bigfoot sightings, and then found evidence of that, but then found evidence of a whole lot more. And you've heard us talk about it on here. But we had been up a few months ago and they had done a controlled burn in an adjacent part of the forest. And it was just completely quiet that night. Nothing happened. And then the subsequent visits, nothing really happened. We went up last night and it was literally from the time we left the car.
It was insane. It was absolutely insane. We had so much. And what's weird about it is the activity we had was so varied. It was so many different things going on that we couldn't exactly pinpoint what was happening or where it was coming from or what it could have possibly have been. But you guys are really going to love this video because it is nonstop, just crazy. So we were actually, I had told him, I was like, we were lucky to make it home this morning. But James Barker has a comment here. Quick question about the video from this past week with the nest. Was there any smell in the nest? It was so hot and
yeah, I just smelled like the foliage.
It smelled like foliage, but there was no real distinct smell, no strong smell in the.
And you guys most of you have seen that video by now. What it is, if it doesn't come across on the film very well, is something has grabbed the branches from both sides of this tree. Well, all the sides of this tree actually, and they've been forced down. If there was foliage on them still, you really wouldn't know what's anything behind it. It was really weird. The floor of it was really, really clean.
So it was two branches that were brought down, and then more branches were kind of woven into them, and like more branches were stacked in on them, so it created like this structure. It was almost like a hut.
And there's an old, like, rotting pile of wood behind it that looks like maybe a tree was taken down. I don't know how many years ago, because it's all just, you touch it right now and it's just basically wood mush. But I didn't get the feeling that it was being used currently. At least I didn't get that feeling. But the floor was really clean. But when I was there, I was thinking this was something old that we had found.
Yeah, that was something that maybe had been used previously, but it didn't seem like it was. I don't know. Maybe it was. I don't know, though. You never know. You never know. Cryptidville says, I know folks who have seen some really creepy, weird things in North Georgia. Yes. All across North Georgia seems like a hot spot for weird activity. That we mentioned in our Feral People and Backwoods Cult episode of Dark Dive, that Corpsewood Manor is actually considered North Georgia, but that's the northwest end of North Georgia. So it seems like across the whole top end of Georgia is just Weirdsville. It's a very, very active area for some reason, and it's just dotted with all these national forests. So there's plenty of places for things to hide.
And the history up through there, I mean, the one area that we've been going to mostly, the stuff we've experienced is mentioned in like legend and folklore going back since the time of the Native Americans there, when the first European settlers there. It's just been these recurring phenomena, and we've experienced them ourselves up there. So it's obvious that this is not a recent occurrence or anything like that. So, all right. And Wade Presley says he's got a dogman in Pikeville, Kentucky. Wade, if you want to reach out to us at hellbentholler@gmail.com.
Yeah, I'm going to actually throw that up there so you guys can know where to email us and get in touch with us. That way you guys can get in touch with us. So there it is, ticking across the bottom. Our email is there. You can always get in touch with us there. You can send us your experiences. You can ask us questions. You can send suggestions, whatever you want to send to us. And then we have our snail mail down there as well, if you'd like to send us a letter.
Night Hawkeye Strangers, he's out in the mountains himself tonight. And he had a little bit of signal, and he was going to try to listen in. So
yeah, Nighthawk was going out tonight.
He is he's still hanging in there. Be safe tonight, my friend. So 71 Vegan Man, how did you determine it was a dogman nest? We don't know it was a dogman nest.
Yeah, we don't know. That's why it was possible dogman nest.
Something large made it, and it's in an area that other people have experienced dogman, and we've had activity that makes us believe the dogman is there in that area. So, but you're exactly right. I don't know. It could have been something else entirely.
You don't know for certain about anything. So. It was just it was so big though. You could see me standing up in it, and you could see Joe standing up in it. It was absolutely huge, and it was just a well protected.
It's like a little
structure.
Hut. It's like a little hut, like a little almost. Hut. And the floor was so clean, and even with not having any real foliage on there, I think I said that in the video, but we could have probably hung out there in the rain and stayed extremely dry.
Yeah.
And as far as like visibility goes, you're not going to be visible from. There's several game trails through there and everything, so. I don't know what it is, but it was definitely odd. Mikey likes it. I keep meaning to send you guys an email about my Ohio Bigfoot story. Fortunately, I haven't had the time, but that same style nest is what I've seen in my ex-father-in-law's woods. We are super behind on emails right now.
Yep.
We're getting like a ton every day, but we are going through them and answering them. I've had a couple people reach out back out. By the time I get to their email, they've sent another one asking if we've got it. We are working through them.
We do read them. We get through
Yeah.
them as quickly as we
Yeah,
can. But
but-
we are both super busy
Yeah.
with
We're getting through them,
Hellbent
and
Holler.
we want to hear from you guys.
Mhm.
Like I said, but we're back to where we'll be going out weekly, back out into the field now that the heat's broken and the foliage isn't so thick.
and the
But-
cicadas are not as bad.
Yeah, even though we had some of those last night on the audio. But yeah, please send those emails to us. We love to hear from you guys. We love kind of getting other little pieces of the puzzle together. We like corresponding with people. Like I said, it just might, as this has kind of gotten a little bit more popular over the past couple of months, our correspondence has increased a lot. We're a two-person gig, so we are working through them.
Operation,
So.
yeah. Nighthawk High Strangeness podcast says dark magic in Georgia. Yes, we have talked about this several times. The area that we research in Georgia, we know that there's occult activity going on there, and we've been kind of going through this debate with each other, back and forth about, is the strange activity caused by the occult practices taking place in the area, or is it a chicken or an egg situation?
Yeah, did the occultists show up because of the strange phenomenon that's
or
going
are
on?
they creating it and drawing the strange phenomenon in?
Or was it pre-existing and they're basically just kind of independently feeding off of each other?
Yeah.
So.
Pyromedic says, while a lot are recounting stories and discussing old theories, you all are doing the research and investigating. Yes, we are. We are very proud about that fact that we go out in the field, and do the work. We do the research and we do the investigating, like in these forests on the ground. We have all of this equipment that we know how to use, and we go out there and we actually do it. You can watch our videos and see that we actually do it. So we appreciate that you noticed that. We appreciate that you find that to be a valuable thing that we do.
I went on a rant a couple of weeks ago, surprisingly, just about that same thing, that people have been doing the same thing since the Patterson Gimlin film came out, going out, howling at the moon, banging on trees with sticks, and just doing the same old stuff. And we haven't gotten anywhere in like decades. So we still like hearing all the old stories, to look for patterns and to look for similarities between what was going on back then to what's happening right now. But our big thing is we just want to try new stuff. I mean, not everything we do is going to work. And I mean, a lot of it won't, but I mean, at least we're out there trying something. I mean, we want to try something new to try to get like again, the same methods have not gotten us anywhere. I mean, just nowhere at all. So that's why we're really going heavy on instrumentation nowadays. We're going heavy on thermal imaging, full spectrum, everything like that. Like I said, the audio recorders I'm experimenting with our audio recorders a little bit. We had some really weird,
Oh God. So
really
yeah,
weird stuff on digital recorder last night. And I'm going to try to rig up a more sensitive, but see what happens is that we can set up stationary and nothing ever happens to us.
Mhm.
It's only when we're really kind of moving through the woods that we seem to stir something up. And I don't know whether we're stirring it up, making it curious, whatever. But if you try to use a digital recorder like that while you're moving through the forest, all you're going to get is the sound of you moving,
your equipment,
the
your
cloth
clothes, everything,
going through the brush. So
crunching leaves.
yeah, I'm trying to work on a way to mount one center in my backpack that's not going to pick up the ambient noise coming off of us. Because again, we got some crazy stuff last night. I don't know what we were 20 feet away from.
Yeah. So Joe is doing audio review today, and I'm doing video review. And I'm in my office, and he's in another room. And he just comes into my office. His eyes are like dinner plates, and he runs in there and goes, "Oh my God! Oh my God!" What we got on our drop recorder is absolutely insane.
It's crazy. I don't know.
Disturbing.
Yeah, it's disturbing. And I know we're kind of hyping it up right now.
I know we are, but whatever
but
that was so close to us. Because okay, so what we do with drop recorders, I'll kind of go over this. If you're not familiar with our drop recorder system, we take a small audio recorder, and we're in an area that we think is active, or we think something may be going on. We go through that area, but we take a small audio recorder, put it down, kind of conceal it a little bit, and then we just leave it running and we'll hike off for a few hours, and then we'll come and go do something else or go to another area, and then we'll come back, collect the recorder, come home and review the audio that occurs while we're out of the area.
Yeah. So we usually carry about 5 or 6 of these like small digital recorders. They've got a battery life good for several hours.
Yeah.
They'll run out of battery before they run out of storage space. All of them have high capacity for storage. And then the gist is that if something's there watching us and it's gone quiet while we're in the area, it might become active again once we move out.
Mm-hmm.
Or the hope is that it's going to see this little, and sometimes we'll cover the red flashing light for the recording thing. Sometimes we leave it visible to try to like work on whatever is out there as curiosity to maybe come in and take a look.
Again, varying techniques.
And we've had some luck with it. Other times we haven't gotten anything at all. And we got something last night that I don't know what it is.
It's so weird. I know that we sound like we're hyping this up.
And we are kind of, but the thing is that what we captured on the digital audio recorder, when we went back to get it, the activity was still going on. And the sounds we heard personally there, we picked up earlier on the digital audio recorder
when we weren't there.
And we don't know what it is. I know we're going to release it and people are going to be going, what's feral hog? It's not, we don't have hogs in that particular area. They're not in that part of the mountains yet. So it's not a bear. I don't know what it is. Something big and something with hands, we think. So,
we'll get to that. So yeah, we'll go back to the LBL video that we released this week.
71 Vegan Man, did y'all look closely for hair, other evidence? We found hair. We keep finding extremely long, coarse, thick hair up there.
I think he's talking. Are you talking about the LBL nest, or are you talking about what we just did?
Anyway, we found hair this weekend.
We found hair this weekend.
But
I think he's talking about the LBL nest. We looked over it. Like he said earlier, it seems like it had been kind of abandoned for a little while. We weren't sure if it had been used recently or not, but we didn't find any evidence of any of that. You can look at the floor of the structure and see that it was pretty much swept clean. There's no leaf pile up. There's no sticks down in there. It looks pretty much swept clean, like something has been bedding down in there and like staying in there. So I don't know.
And I know I killed your comment. Bart Nunley, how you doing tonight, buddy? Sorry I jumped off the phone with you so quickly last night. So
yeah, we got back home and it was kind of crazy. Barton,
what's that?
No, that's fine. Go ahead.
Jill Duck's reconsidering buying land and property in North Georgia after this now. So
well, Jill, you're gonna have a really nice spot to, if you want to start doing investigations, you're gonna have a nice spot to jump off of there. So you'll have a great base camp. So you just go on in there, girl. I think you'll be all right. Just have your wits about you. Be situationally aware, and you'll be all right.
Pyromedic, how did those cicadas go? They were loud last night still.
But not as bad. It wasn't as bad.
When I run our audio through a spectrogram to review it, so I've got a visual representation of the sound to kind of help me key in, especially when you've got hours of audio, it's like really necessary. And you just see these recurring bands just over and over and over. And it's just the cicadas. I mean, it's just a very evenly spaced bands going all the way through for it. So we've got a little while longer with those, and then they'll slowly die back down.
Yeah.
So.
See here, Melissa Lester says, in the LBL where the herds of bison and elk roam, have there ever been any reports of attacks on the herds there? All of the bison, as far as I know, and elk are tagged.
However, those bones we found around Station 16, we've had several people tell us that some of those bones looked bovine.
Yes.
So the only bovine creatures around there are the bison that are in an enclosure. And that is quite a ways away.
Yes.
So unless maybe one of them broke free, made its way down there and was killed, or maybe something got a bison out, but that's even a young bison is going to be a pretty big creature to transport that distance.
Right.
So.
And this also goes back to what we were discussing in our latest episode of Dark Dive. We were discussing that if something goes on, they're not going to tell anyone about it. So, like I said, all of the bison and elk are tagged, and I don't know if they're geotagged, but they're tagged. They're all tagged. But if one or two go missing, and they think that something like this did it, I don't think they're going to let anybody know about that. So I think they're going to pretty much keep that under wraps if that occurs.
Stephanie Light, wonder if there's been any reports in Texas. Actually, there have been. A friend of ours is working on a book, Aaron Dees. He's also going to be involved with the Small Town Monsters movie that's coming up, Texas Dogman. Our friend Aaron has found an actual triangle in Texas that encompasses a great deal of Dogman activity going back as far as he can find recorded records. He calls it the Texas Dogman Triangle. But there are a ton of reports through there. We've managed to send a few of them his way from people that have contacted us. That's a little bit outside of our area of operations, but yeah, there's a ton down there right now. And there's actually some people on the ground compiling accounts right now as we speak, both for this book and then the accompanying movie.
Yeah.
So,
Deer in Headlights says, government mad they had to pick up all those bones. We don't know if it was the government.
I don't know if it was the government, man.
The more we do this, we get worried that we're dealing with some sort of ancient trickster element, and that's a whole other kettle of fish.
Yeah, it's a whole other thing.
If it was some sort of government agent that had
a lot of bones to pick up,
yeah,
they were thorough.
Can you imagine getting that assignment? Like, hey, listen, these YouTube weirdos have discovered a kill zone.
And when we were up there,
for one of our operatives, you're gonna have to go pick up some bones.
All of those bones were basically on top of the leaves. And when we went up in the summertime, that area was not really, you guys saw the video, it's not that grown up under the trees there. So it's not like those bones were under tall grass or anything like that. I don't know where any of them went to. I mean, we were finding what we put in that video was just a portion of what we found. I mean, because every 5 feet, it was like we were kicking up, more bones up through there.
Yeah.
And I'm talking coyote bones, the bovine bones, deer bones, just everything, like small animals, big bones, small bones. But some of the bones were really sizable. That's what makes me a little suspicious that they got gnawed away that quickly. Because you don't really see a lot of squirrels or porcupines, anything like that through there. So we've seen maybe like 2 or 3 small animals since we've been through there. Not a lot at all. So, we're up next to a pretty good patch of woods here in South Carolina, and you can go out and there's like 20 squirrels within, visual range at any given time. It's swarming with them.
Yeah. And
we'll have like deer carcasses out there that last forever. They get gnawed at, but and obviously the flesh gets decayed away and stripped, but the bones are there for. There's some out there that have been over there for like almost 2 years at this point where there's still remnants of it. So
Harper Faulkner says, I think you'd be better suited if you just go out there and sit down and wait for them to reveal themselves to you instead of rambling through the woods and making noise. I learn more by listening. However you approach this, do it your way.
I wish we could, because that would be a lot easier.
That would be a lot easier.
It's so much easier to set up stationary and do that. And we have rarely had, now we have had some luck with it, but over the overwhelming majority of the time, we're moving. And that's just all it is. It would be so much easier. Trust me, we've tried it. We've tried acting like regular campers. We've tried setting up stealth. We've tried everything under the sun. And while we will get some luck every once in a while, most of it's when we're just stirring stuff up. We always like to talk about how we take a kinetic approach.
Yeah. We like to be moving with the environment. We like to be not necessarily like trying to be stationary and blend in with the environment. We want to be part of the environment. Everything in the forest is moving and alive.
So much easier if we could just stay stationary, because just from the equipment aspect, we're not juggling cameras, flashlights, night vision, thermal, hey, I want to take a reading here, so I've got to get the sensor out of my backpack now. It'd be so much easier just setting up stationary. And I've heard other people have had luck. Maybe it's just the area we're in. But we don't really have traditionally a lot of luck with that. So.
Oh yeah. So, Stephen Taylor, thank you for the super chat. Thank you so much.
Stephen Taylor, towards the drone.
Towards the drone. Man, think about all the cool shots I'm going to get if I get a new drone. We did crash our first drone into a tree in North Georgia. So. And
Sheila, we did get your donation to the channel through PayPal. And we got the email forward. Thank you so much.
Yeah, that was really cool.
We're actually spending that. I talked about how we were going to go through and kind of change up our audio recorder setup. We have a big Zoom H4n Pro that we're actually using to stream off tonight. We use that for our parabolic dish when we do set up stationary. We've got our drop recorders. We actually picked up a Zoom H1N, like a smaller one. It's got really sensitive microphones, which means that anything that brushes up against it is going to just overpower the ambient noise around it. So what I did with that money you sent us is I've got some parts coming to try to attach this to the back of my backpack, but off the fabric a couple of inches to see if that'll cut down on the noise that we generate. Because right now that overpowers everything. So, but these microphones are so much more sensitive than what we're using. I don't want to hook up a lavalier mic or an external mic because quite honestly, they're not as sensitive as the built-in microphones on it. But we appreciate that donation, and that's what that money went to. We ordered it today.
We do appreciate that. Jonathan Dodd says, "Hey, Jess and Joe, been binging Dark Dive and doing some Dogman art tonight."
What's
Hello,
up, buddy?
Jonathan Dodd.
For those of you who don't know, Jonathan Dodd is like the, what would you call him? The Rembrandt,
premier.
the Rembrandt of the cryptozoology world. He does the best. He does amazing art, period. But he's really into all of these topics. He's the guy who did our deer skull logo for us.
Yeah, and if you haven't seen his artwork, if you are remotely into cryptids, which you have to be,
it's freaking amazing.
You're listening to Dark Dive. You're listening to Hellbent Holler. You're watching us all the time. You have to be into it. Go check out Jonathan Dodd. Jonathan Dodd draws on Instagram. He is just amazing.
Really good. It's really good. It's been next level what he's been churning out lately.
Jill Duck, thank you for $10.
Hey, thank you for the drone. We had, like I said, we had a drone, and I don't know what my problem is, man. Maybe I lost one too many kites when I was a kid.
Yeah, you got into the panic.
But I do okay in the backyard. We take it up the mountains though. By the time you get over the trees, the wind is so bad. We just lost the last one. So we're thinking about probably trying to add one. I'd really like to get a thermal drone down the road. Those get a little bit cheaper every year, but they're still super expensive. And it's not outside the realm of possibility, but that would just preclude us from getting other stuff that we would want to try to add to it. Our gear is constantly evolving just because the phenomena always seems to constantly evolve. I know sometimes it feels like we're chasing stuff with tech, but we wouldn't have got that image in the LBL if we didn't have a thermal.
Yeah.
And we wouldn't have gotten what we got last night if we weren't using drop digital recorders.
Yeah, the drop recorder, that's gonna be a whole other like level of what we got last night. Yeah. So yeah, it was wonderful. Wonderful. Pyromech. I was fishing for another reenactment of the cicadas. All right, let's do our nightly.
Turning into a tradition here.
Yeah. So. There you go. All right. Let's see.
Wait, hold on. Okay, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. War Criminal 7 says demonic manifestations are happening. I think that's what happened to me last night in the LBL.
That's interesting because for those of you who have not seen War Criminals comments on some of the, the Dogman related channels and whatnot, you've always been interested in it, but kind of reserved about coming out and saying that anything super strange is going on. So I'm interested to hear. You've mentioned earlier that you'd send us an email. I'll try to check that out when we get off here and see if we can find about what happened then. So I'm sorry, whatever comments you.
Oh, that's fine. I'm already moving down here. I was you guys are commenting so much. It is just rolling in. We really appreciate you guys joining us here. And we're appreciating these super chats. That is so cool that you guys are doing that for us.
71 Vegan Man, developing new investigative ideas in my mind is crucial to figure out what these things are. Yeah, I mean, again, if the same old tried and true methods were working, we would have this figured out a lot more than we do right now. Again, that's why we go so tech heavy, and we'll get all the comments about, oh, well, you just need to not take anything, don't take any cameras, and you'll experience it. We've already experienced it. We're not in this to just experience it more. We're in this to try to get some sort of documented evidence, proof, whatever you want to call it, so we don't just have another great story to tell. You know what I'm saying? We have
actual data that we can present, and it's 71 Vega because the 71 Chevy Vega.
Sorry. So, but. And, for a while I thought, gosh, we're going so heavy on tech and heavy on equipment that
it was almost felt like maybe are we bogging ourselves down with so much equipment and so much data and so much stuff to learn how to use and equipment to learn how to use. And how are we going to translate that to the public at large when we get this data? But the more we've used this stuff, it seems like it's become more it's more valuable to our pursuit because we're going to have solid data.
Yeah, that's
to
not
present.
where I was going for. But I was saying that I
Oh,
thought
I'm
that the
sorry.
more data, the more cameras and recorders and all that we had, that we were going to literally chase the phenomena away. You know what I'm saying? That you always hear about people that once you put the cameras up, it just goes away, and that's what I was worried about. It doesn't seem to be that's what's happening. It seems like it's gotten more elusive and more tricky. Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
But it's still going on. Like I said last night, we had a lot of stuff going on. A lot.
And I was running the thermal all night. I had the thermal going all night, so it's not like we had cameras, thermals, recorders. We had a lot of equipment rolling simultaneously, and we still had tons of activity. So it's not like it's afraid of us having the recording apparatus.
Tracker, what's up, buddy? In your Dogman Nest video, what did the red spinning orb look like in person? We couldn't see that one with the naked eye.
No.
We weren't sure if that was an animal of some sort, but it wasn't really behaving like it. I don't know. We couldn't see it with the naked eye.
No.
We looked down with flashlights. We didn't see anything, but sometimes, especially like small mammals like that, will camouflage up pretty well. You know, the brown will kind of blend in with the brown of their surroundings. We weren't quite calling that paranormal. We think maybe it was just like a small mammal of some sort. We weren't quite sure. So.
Okay, Mikey likes it. $10. I'd like to add a little towards a flannel for Jesse. Trying to turn me into a flannel man, eh? Yeah, I get cold. A new flannel. Thank you. I appreciate it. We always appreciate those super chats.
Red Pill Preacher. Hey, how are you, my friend? I saw your email. I've got to get back with you. Some areas are charged based on geography and ley line placements, and certain occult organizations utilize remote areas for ritualistic activity due to the need for privacy, especially for satanic. That is what's going on with Corpsewood Manor, and that's what's going on with at least part of the region that we are going into right now.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. The activity is fed by it.
Yes. And as we've dug more into this region that we're looking into right now, we're finding like more disappearances that stretch back like decades. We've been finding some weird stuff that on the face of it, it's not paranormal, but like abandoned women's clothing and stuff like that up there. Just it's painting a pretty dark picture where we're up at right now. So
yeah, it really goes on there. Stephanie Light, 1111 towards that drone. Thank you.
Thank you. That drone may happen, man.
And it's 1111, so that's lucky. That's a lucky super chat. You can go ahead, Joseph.
So Porky means, what camera do y'all use? Well, lately we've been using, we have a traditional Sony, like a really good quality Sony.
It's an AX53.
FDR AX53.
FDR AX53.
Is we use that with some pretty heavy infrared illumination. That's what we were using. You'll notice everything looks pinkish and purplish now. It's because we're using a full spectrum cam that does both ultraviolet and infrared. Seems like we have more luck picking up some of the lights we see with that.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's just because of the sensitivity to the ultraviolet range or not, but we use that. We use a AGM thermal, a pulsar thermal to film with. Most of it's been done with the full spectrum camera lately, though. And then we use GoPros during the daytime, but the full spectrum cam, we're thinking about adding another one of those to the arsenal down the road, because it seems like a lot of times with the Sony, we'll see some of these lights, we won't be able to get them. And it seems like even though technically the Phasm's got a shorter range, which is the full spectrum camera, it seems like that does a lot better picking up.
I did a video on the Phasm cam and light that you can check out on our channel. It's a really cool setup, and I kind of talk about how we set it up to where we can use it for long duration recording without having to swap out batteries all the time. And it's the same kind of setup we use for our GoPros, but we have this selfie stick like thing that's about this big, and then it's got little feet that fold out on it. So if you want to use it as a tripod, you can, but it actually has a battery in it. It's like a battery backup, and we directly connect the camera to that stick, so it's continuously charging, so you never have to switch out batteries. And I know if any of you ever use a GoPro, you know that your batteries just go like crazy. So using the stick allows us to film for hours and hours and hours and never have to stop to change out batteries, and we don't run the risk of missing a crucial piece of evidence because we're out there changing batteries. So that's been a huge help.
David Rodriguez, do y'all ever get things or evidence of things messing with your vehicle after an expedition? No, and that's one of our biggest concerns. That is one of our, because where we're at, there's no cell range.
Yeah.
We have a satellite texter with our personal locator beacon that we could send out for help if we had to. I don't know how long it's going to take to get to us, and it's going to be real difficult to explain where we're at. But there's actually an area that's near us that is it's not near where we're investigating, but near where we live at, that it's a pretty popular hiking destination. And a lot of people have been coming out and finding their cars disabled at night after they've been out hiking all day long. They haven't been able to pick up any tire tracks of another vehicle doing it. It's been a mystery. To be honest with you, that's kind of what sparked our feral humans episode.
Yeah.
Is because we keep wondering if maybe there's people in those woods who just don't want other people around, and that's why they're messing with the vehicles so much. But that's a big fear of ours, that we're going to come out one night and the car will be disabled. And knock on wood, that has not happened as of yet. So,
and if you watch our latest video, you can see my dashboard is lit up like a Christmas tree because I have lights flashing. I'm waiting on a vehicle dynamics control module for my Subaru. It's fine. It's just I'm waiting for a part, but it's fine. I should have that this week. So, but yeah, we get concerned about that because we are way out there, and the only way we're going to be able to get in touch with anybody to send us help is through our personal locator beacon, because we generally don't have cell signal out there. So yeah, it's good to have. We have a lot of like things that we can kind of help ourselves with, tire patch kits, anything like that. But if there's like something that is, I think in terms of like the Gremlins situation, yeah, that does concern us, because then we'd be kind of trapped there. So you got another Mr. Joe?
I'm kind of catching up to you. I'm a
I
little
know,
bit behind.
we're catching
I'm
up.
going through them a little bit. There's a lot of comments, but Martin Groves is in the house. Martin, how are you,
Hello,
sir?
Martin. Nice to see you.
Um,
Let's see. Haha. Central Florida Bigfoot says, have you guys explored around Black Rock Mountain State Park? Yes, we have. We've been around there a good bit. It's outside of Clayton, Georgia. And we love that park. It's a really, really nice park. We went there. That was one of our first camping trips when we moved up here, wasn't it?
Yeah. So,
yeah. That was I think that was one of the times we were asleep and in Black Rock Mountain State Park, and it was two barred owls, right?
Yes, barred owls.
Woke us up.
Probably the closest barred owls they've ever been to us. I mean, it was crazy.
And I always describe barred owls as an ostrich monkey. So yes, we love that park. Let's see. Oh, the Dooster says, what was that Zoom model number?
We use an H4n Pro, which is the larger one, and you're using that right now to actually stream off of, and that has XLR hookups to it. One of the XLR hookups is what I hook my parabolic up to, and then this is the H1n that's obviously a lot smaller, super sensitive, almost too sensitive. If you just brush up against it, you're going to hear it during playback. But we're going to try to rig that up to try to up our recording game, because sometimes we'll hear stuff. You guys will see it in the videos where one of us will stop and go, "Did you hear that?" It's right on the edge of our hearing in that, and just the little camera microphone won't pick it up. So we're trying to do that to try to kind of be able to bring to record some of the stuff that we're hearing out there right now that we're missing because of the size of the microphone on the action cam.
Yeah.
So.
Just always we're always trying to improve what we do. So everything's always a little different. Thank you, Teresa Wilkins, for the super chat. We really appreciate it.
Going into the drone. You guys may get to watch me. And what's funny is we actually have the drone footage as it crashed. You ought to release that one day.
Yes,
just going into the tree on the side of North Georgia. You can watch
Joe have a literal meltdown because he's so upset that he crashes the drone. But yeah, I can put that together. It was a windy day, to be fair. Yeah. It was a windy day. It wasn't that bad. Teresa Wilkins, keep up the good work, guys. Thank you, Teresa. We really appreciate it. We appreciate it so much. 71 Vega Man says, have you all done any investigations in Michigan or Wisconsin? No, we've not left the Appalachian region yet. We are so busy here that we're not ready to travel yet.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about some places we want to try to go to in the upcoming year. and we'll hit a few places. You know, we're gonna venture out, but the Appalachians, especially the Southern Appalachians, is pretty much just what we're really into. And with the activity staying relatively consistent here right now, we probably will. I'd like to do a little bit of like paranormal tourism. You know what I'm saying? Go
Yeah.
check out some of these other areas. So
We're interested in doing a sort of a more ghost centric thing in North Carolina, more towards the coast of North Carolina. We're looking into doing that. We're talking to a gentleman about doing one of those, and then at this really cool location, and then following it up with going into kind of a swampy area on the North Carolina coast. So that it's like we can't get too far away because there's so much going on right around us.
yeah. A lot of people in the chat. Goshawk, Jonestead Farms. Guys, I
Alan
know I'm-
Lassender says, "Are you strictly Dogman researchers, or do y'all still research for Bigfoot?"
we specifically started off as her with the paranormal, me with Sasquatch. And then the first time we went out kind of legend tripping when we moved back up through here, but it was specifically for like Sasquatch. It's what we were really kind of looking into. We still find Sasquatch like evidence, if you want to call it, like the stereotypical footprints. Now, the footprints in this region aren't as big as the ones that you see out west or up in the Pacific Northwest or in Canada. We still see those, but I as much as we laughed about Dogman to begin with, for me right now, most of the stuff that we're dealing with seems like it's more tied into the Dogman phenomenon. And honestly, that's where we kind of seem to find ourselves drawn towards right now.
Yeah, it seems like it's calling us out. It's calling for us to look into it and go for it. And
in this part of the country, at least, there's a lot of bleed over between the two. There's a lot of bleed over between the two. And so much so that you'll get a report and you're not sure whether it's a Bigfoot or a Dogman just because of the aggressive activity. The Sasquatch in this region don't seem to be as large again, so there's not that big of a size difference between the two phenomena that you maybe might see in other places. So for us at this point, I think we're just investigating any weird thing that comes along.
Like our approach is usually observe and report anyway. It's go out there, don't look for a specific thing. Don't have anything particular in your mind that you want to happen or want to see or anything like that, because that's just going to cloud your judgment. That's going to lean you in one direction over the other if you have some sort of experience. So I think the most important thing to go out with an open mind and just observe and report. Whatever happens, observe and report.
See stingrays.
Oh yes, Mr. We must have a lot of car fans in here tonight. This is definitely up my alley. Stingray 1975, $20. Check out Old House Woods in Diggs, Virginia. It's still there. It's still haunted. Thank you for that super chat, and that sounds awesome. We're actually, I wonder if that's on the way to Wild and Weird, West Virginia. If you guys don't know already, October 14th and 15th, I'll be at Wild and Weird Con in Logan, West Virginia. And it's going to be a blast. That Friday before, I'm doing a night hike, and you get to come out with me, check out my equipment. I'll show you how to use all my equipment. We'll talk about research methodology. And then afterwards, Joe Perdue from Wild and Weird, West Virginia is going to make everybody a campsite dinner, and we get to hang out by a campfire. And then the next day, I'll be speaking at Wild and Weird Con. So if you guys are in the area and able to go there, please come to Wild and Weird Con. It's going to be a lot of fun.
And
he's looking up
Diggs, Virginia. Yeah, it's down on the bay, Chesapeake Bay. So
Diggs, Virginia.
Yeah, I'm unfamiliar with that. So
neat. Okay, we're definitely going to add that to our wish list of places to go.
Yeah,
because that sounds awesome. Thank you so much. And yes, we will definitely go check that out when we're able to.
Jersey, how are you? What's the plan when you see one? Well, we've seen a couple of things now at this point. Two of them have been so fast that we didn't really have a chance to do anything. It was there and gone before we could really react. As far as like the up close face-to-face, which we had something real close to us last night that was making itself known, but we lost it when we went towards it. Jesse got bluff charged or whatever you want to call it one night. We're just going to have to let the circumstances dictate what we do at this point. I don't take the theory that any of this stuff is friendly towards mankind. That even the reports that people have where it didn't hurt them, whatever they saw, that doesn't necessarily mean it's our friend. So I don't go into this with like a real touchy-feely kind of predisposition, but the circumstances of what we encounter will dictate what we try to do at that
Yeah.
point. So um
Nighthawk High Strangeness podcast says, don't forget that the Mayan people had sacred sites in Georgia. Yeah, they looked into a lot of those more of the terraced sites in Georgia, and I think that area is completely blocked off now. You can't even go
Yeah.
check out that area anymore. I think there was a show called History Unearthed or Mysteries Unearthed. Do
Mhm.
you remember I showed you that show? He did a great episode on the Mayans in Georgia, and it was that's an interesting theory. I think they found ochre, the pigment that they used on folks that they sacrificed, and they found that at the bottom of lagoons and stuff. Not lagoons, but
Mhm.
quarries and everything down here, but deep ponds. But they found it up in Georgia. I've of course am getting all the details wrong.
Yeah. Matt Keenan, how are you, Matt? Do you think these satanic cults are a national security threat? I think that they might be tied in with the national security apparatus itself. So I don't know if maybe they view it as a threat. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. I mean, there's all these rumors that this sort of stuff is tied into like certain aspects of the government where the government's very compartmentalized, that some of the more compartmentalized parts might kind of have leanings towards what we would consider satanic stuff. We talked about that a little bit on the previous podcast. If maybe some of the cover up that goes on is not for our benefit, but for the benefit of whatever they're covering up. So I don't know. I don't know if it's a threat to them or if it might be a feature and not a bug for
There's
them.
also theories that these satanic cults also use their rituals. They involve people who are in high standing in the government. They involve them in these rituals and they sort of observe them or record them doing nefarious things. And they use that as a leverage point for that particular politician or official within our government system. So there's always that possibility. And I think that's definitely a threat to national security.
Jersey says overnight video at the abandoned school bus. We might do that.
Yeah,
we didn't really find any trace of anything around the school bus itself, but that's not too terribly far from where we found some of the other stuff that we found on this last trip. Again, that's a real hilly area through there, so sometimes getting there on foot or even taking the roads with your vehicle, as the crow flies, it's not that far.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we might do that. It seems like that struck a chord with a lot of people, just that abandoned school bus. We had some people say that, it was driven down there. It was for some hunters. I think some hunters maybe eventually used it, but they didn't drive it down there. There's no way that terrain has changed that much since when that bus was made to be able to drive that bus down there. And that bus had damage on the inside. I think that bus took a tumble off that hill and rolled down it. Now, who was in it? I don't know. There was a school there before the TVA took the area over, but I think when we got the age of the bus, the age of the bus didn't line up with that.
Right.
So I don't know, but that really struck a chord with a lot of people. We might actually do that. We might actually go down and do a night investigation, just kind of hang out on the bus and see what happens. So
Martin Groves says the bison and elk young are being predated on in the LBL, according to the employees there. I'm not surprised about that. I am not surprised at all. And it's interesting what employees will tell you and won't tell you. I think that a lot of the ones that are maybe more established there won't talk about anything. And a lot of the people who are new don't know anything.
Of course, Martin's got a lot of back end information
connections.
He can hear some of this stuff. So if he's saying that to you guys, that they are being predated on, they're being predated on. You can take that to the bank. Triton Thunder Fury, awesome name. Have y'all ever been to East Texas? Not an investigations like related type stuff. That's one of the areas we'd really like to get down to and eventually check out. Once our friend Aaron kind of finishes his work on the Texas Dogman Triangle, we might head down there and check out some of the more recent stuff that has occurred with him. So
I think that would be a lot of fun. Mikey Likes It says, Jesse, that scat you stepped in, could it have been tested in any way? I know, not a very tasteful question.
Who's going to test it? That's the thing, is that people will always go, what did you send it into the lab? What lab?
There is no lab.
We don't have a lab. There was a zoologist that was fairly close by who's interested in this stuff on their own time.
But he can't use university resources to test supposed
they couldn't help us.
Dogman or Bigfoot scat.
And I mean, you could send it to some just random person off the internet. I mean, you don't know what's going to happen with the sample, whether they're going to tell you it is what it actually is or not. We're not keeping bags of poop in the freezer. That ain't happening. But we just don't. And we've had people in the past go, "Oh, I can hook you up with testing." It's never come through. And I mean, I think that if we ever get something that's extremely compelling, like we have a flat out up close clear sighting of something, and then it runs off and we find in that spot something, we might drop the coin on trying to get it tested. But right now we just can't afford to test every scat pile and hair we find. I mean, just it's all there is to it. So I mean, we'd love to.
Please test this poop.
Yes, exactly. So
Alan Lassiter says, do y'all carry a satellite phone? We carry a Garmin InReach Mini. That is a personal locator beacon that in the event that we need assistance, we can just hit a button and there's an SOS feature. Now, in addition to that, I can send text messages to someone who is at home, and we do that. We send preset messages to people that are aware of where we are in the woods, what we're doing, and we check in all the time because it's just us two out in the woods. So it's very important that we check in and say, hey, we're still okay. We're still out. We're still out, hiking and investigating. Everything's fine. We let them know when we return back.
We have the breadcrumb feature activated. So that way the person we're in contact with can get on a map and see where we're at. It updates every few minutes to kind of give them an idea of our track. So if we go missing or whatever, they'll be able to see our last known location, which will hopefully help them find us. But we keep that with us all the time, and that's a priority. We probably check 5 or 6 times before we leave the house to go out to do this, that we've got that. That's probably the one thing we make sure we don't leave the home without.
And if one of us gets injured, it will be able to, contact someone for help. This kind of bridges that question too. Have y'all thought about exploring any of the cluster areas near you that David Paulides has created of missing people? Thank you. So the reason we carry a personal locator beacon is to be safe, is to be able to communicate to people, to let them know where we are. And as we have mentioned over and over again, it's one of the David Paulides missing 411 rules: always have a personal locator beacon on you. We are big fans of Mr. Paulides' work, and we have looked into some areas in the Great Smoky Mountains National Park, and we are planning on doing an expedition in a certain area in the park coming up. We haven't really worked out the logistics of it yet, but the inspiration for that particular expedition is the Missing 411 series.
Just laughing at James Barker's comment. Thermal drone, we needed to get an offensive drone build going. Anyone got a line on some silver ball bearings? You could buy working silver bullets up until recently. I can't remember. I think it was like Minuteman Armoring or something like that, but they were like one 10 millimeter round was something like, I don't know, like $250 or something like that. It was well beyond the intrinsic value of the silver that's involved with it. But that was a little price per. I almost ordered one, but they've stopped making them for the time being. So
ASP Off-Road says, we went camping at LBL this summer. The whole time I had a bad vibe, and I didn't have any knowledge of the lore from that area. Creepy. Agreed. Very creepy. Even if I wasn't there doing cryptid research and I had no knowledge of what had happened there or what people have seen there and experienced there, I would say that it's creepy. It just gives off a strange vibe. You feel it in the land, you feel it in the air. There's this weird. Last time we were there, you can watch. Not last time we were there, but when we were there in the winter in our werewolf experiments, I think episode 3 or episode 2, we mentioned this humming sound. There is this low, just droning.
It's not the dam. We went towards the dam, and it got. You lose it when you leave that area of the LBL. It wasn't barges.
No, and it's very unsettling. It makes you kind of uneasy. That on top of think about the human element too. You've got people that come into the LBL to get up to nefarious things as well. So it's just, there's a lot of factors there, but I agree. The LBL is very freaky.
And they think a lot of those people are going missing that got in the LBL for nefarious reasons.
A lot of these people are at risk,
Yeah.
and they're just kind of disposable by society. So people are not going to miss them, I guess, you know? So you've got people that are up to no good. They go in there, and if they disappear, it's just kind of, oh, you know, shaken off like, oh, well, they got into a bad situation. Now they're gone. But that's a perfect opportunity for something to just snatch them up, take them, and there'd be no recourse for it.
Todd Hall, how much the video recorders with night vision run? You can get like cheap ones for like under $100, and they're going to be varying quality. But I mean, our first few videos were shot on a just little handheld digital recorder that we got off Amazon warehouse for like a few bucks, and we still have it. The battery life's terrible, but you can get those. I mean, the Sony, you know, getting like a real good handy cam, you're talking like $2,000 or something like that. But you can get like no name, like knockoff ones that you almost treat as disposable. You get into the psionic stuff, those usually run about $1,000 to $1,200 for the good one. The one we got is decent quality since the firmware update came out, but it's like I said, you can get working ones for not that much money. You know what I'm saying? You can even get like the Gen 1 like goggles and stuff like that off Amazon. A lot of them don't record sound, but you can get those fairly inexpensive. But yeah, that's how we started off. We started off with just a tiny little, you know, handheld camera that we got that has like no name to it. So
yeah. I'm going to put one up here, and I want you to look up something for me. MK Ultra says Town Creek Indian Mound in North Carolina. Look up where that one is. I think that's the one near where I grew up. In North Carolina, looks very South American in its style. Never see much about it on TV, but I visit the place often. I think, is it? Pull it up for me. Oh no, Montgomery County. No,
Montgomery
wrong
County.
one. There's a Indian Mound Lake, literally, I think a mile from the house that I grew up in Haywood County, North Carolina. I think it might be the Garden Mound or something like that. I was just curious. But yeah, that's over that way. I was just curious. But yeah, a lot of those mounds, there's a lot of similarities between a lot of these earth structures and a lot of these very, very early Native American, South American earthworks. And they said that these people didn't make it all the way up here, but there's so many similarities between these earthworks that you have to think that somebody was on the same wavelength, or that someone did
they
some
were getting
traveling.
the instructions on how to do those from the same spot.
Yeah,
so
there's that too. There's the whole pyramids and the ancient astronauts theory. We're gonna get deep into that one.
Take two wheels. That nest look creepy. You won't catch me out at night there all alone. Enough weird crap happens here by Kentucky Lake. If you've got some weird stuff going on through there, my friend, shoot us an email, especially in that area. We're going to probably spend less time around the quote unquote massacre site when we come back, more time at Station 16. And then we're going to try to go hit some areas that you don't really hear a lot about. So, I mean, there's some other encounters that people are having that are outside that north end where the RV massacre supposedly happened. So,
yeah. Going through, we're trying to catch up with the chat. I know I was talking about mounds and we talked about that a while back, but we're trying to catch up with you guys.
Jones said his brother builds drones, has his Part 107 pilot license. Yeah, we're going to try to keep it small so we don't have to register anything or do anything like that. I know that the enforcement's been cracked down on quite a bit. So
Ghetto Yeti says DNA testing is expensive as hell. Plus, look at what happened to Dr. Ketchup.
Exactly right.
Prime example.
You can spend all the money in the world to do it, and it's until the time is right and like the Overton window is shifted enough. It doesn't matter what you trot out; people are going to find holes in it. You know. So I'm not a geneticist. I can't speak with a huge level of like authority on the Melba Ketchum DNA study, but I do know that it was doomed from the start as far as like people giving it like a serious shake. So yeah, anything that you get, I mean, it's going to come back. People are just going to look at it and go, oh, it's contaminated, you know. People, and it's weird because right now people hold up that DNA evidence almost like a holy grail.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, you know, it doesn't matter what it comes out with. People are not going to believe it until they're ready to believe it. You know?
Plus, it needs to be repeatable. Anything that you're going to want to submit and say, this is evidence. This is proof. You've got to have it be able to be repeatable. You have to be able to submit these samples multiple times, get them tested multiple times. You're talking thousands of dollars here, thousands and thousands of dollars just to get that.
TCR 44. Are you familiar with Michael Aquino?
Yes, and
that's the Temple of Set guy, right?
Yes, and his freaky eyebrows. Yes.
Yeah.
He is a strange duck. Yeah, he's involved in the Franklin cover up, which is a whole other issue. I can talk for hours about that. We might eventually go into something like that because we have been taking a weird like detour into cults. Like, okay, I lost the live stream for a second. See, you know what happens when you talk about the satanic government. I lost the live stream.
Every time you start talking about MK Ultra, stuff goes weird.
I know. So. Okay. All right.
Can you guys still hear us?
Can you see us? Is it working? Go to the bottom of the chat. Let's see. What happened?
I don't know if anybody can hear us right now or not.
Okay. We're still going? Are we still going?
I don't know.
See, I'm telling you, every time.
Yes, Scriptedville says yes.
Every time we start talking about that,
it
just starts to go haywire. Okay.
I can hear and see you. All right, good deal. Good deal. It flickered on our end for a second.
Yeah, as everything kind of about this, flipped out there. They know we're talking about it. We might eventually go and do a show on that, but that's going to be a low watched show
because it'll probably never make it.
It'll never make it to anyone. Yeah. Glenn Snyder says, "What do you think about a helium balloon glowing or lighted with a video camera looking downward? Draw their attention, bring them in."
David with Timberland Bigfoot Groups is going to do a helium balloon with like a camera. So that's there's a group further out west from us that's actually thinking about doing that right now. And it sounds like a great idea. If a lot of you guys remember the Falcon project, they tried to get off the ground where they were going to do basically little dirigibles with like cameras that would stay in the air for like unlimited amounts of time to scan it. The funding fell through. Like anything with this, it all got wonky. But
you clicked on another.
I'm sorry, but
okay.
But yeah, it's a great thing. It's a great idea, and I hope Sony has some luck with it. We don't really have a plan for it because the tree cover's so thick where we're at. Like again, if we do a drone, it's going to be a thermal drone, just because I think that was what would really shine in this area of this landscape. So.
Mikey Likes It says, makes you wonder how many homeless people probably go missing without any reports at all. I'm sure lots. Like I said, it's a vulnerable population that people already assume they're going to be missing anyway.
Well,
I mean, they're already missing.
We met in New Orleans. I lived there for like 20 years before I moved back up into this region. And it's pretty much a poorly hidden secret that there are 3 or 4 serial killers at any time working in New Orleans. New Orleans has an extremely transient population. There's people showing up on buses every day. Mm-hmm. They come down there. A lot of times their family, and these aren't like kids. These are, young adults or whatnot, but a lot of homeless people because it's warm for most of the year. And a lot of those people go missing, and, people just disappear one day, and you don't know if maybe they just got sick of the city and got on a bus and went back home, or if they're just in the bottom of a swamp somewhere.
Yeah.
So that happens all of the time. I mean, but it's always been said that they think that there are like a couple of serial killers, and there's always weird little things in the news down there that let you know that they kind of keep it covered up because they don't want to lose what little tourism they have left down there at this point. So
I don't know which place I'm more scared to go to, the LBL or Chicago. That's Matt Keenan said that. Yeah, well, they both have their risks and rewards, I'm sure. But yeah, it's crazy what like hidden dangers lie in somewhere that seems so. The LBL just seems so. Just like, okay, it's just a recreation area. It's just a big forest. It's got 2 lakes on either side, but it's so strange about how much stuff is there and how much has been covered up, how much has been hidden, and how much has happened over the years that you just don't know about it. We don't even know about a fraction of what's occurred on that peninsula. It's still a mystery. It's crazy.
And Bard says the LBL is basically one big extended cemetery. It is. I mean, there are tons of cemeteries there. We came across what looked like an old cemetery that wasn't marked, that it's next to that abandoned tent that we found. And we're looking around and I'm like, I think these are tombstones.
Yeah, because they're laid out in a pattern.
But they're
just
so
upright
worn,
rocks.
so worn, and the leaves and the the debris of the forest has built the ground up around them over the years, but there's just so many through there. I mean, it's just, and we know that this type of stuff happens in proximity to cemeteries a lot. And I mean, look at it. It's cemeteries bounded by water on 3 sides. I mean, from like any sort of aspect you want to look at it, supernaturally, like from a folklore standpoint, anything like that, that's prime area for like weird stuff to happen. So there's mining that goes on in a nearby, there's caves. I mean, literally any sort of like geographical element that is mentioned with these types of stories, you're going to find it in the LBL.
It's like a perfect storm of paranormal.
Oh yeah, it is. Like I said, I keep talking about how everybody's like all gaga for Skinwalker Ranch right now. And all of Kentucky, and especially LBL, it's like, it's a giant Skinwalker Ranch, for lack of a better word. So
Stephen Taylor says David Pilates, he does Pilates. David Pilates has several points that are common in missing persons cases. Are there any that you find most interesting?
The thing that I find most interesting, and you have to go through a lot of his books, and he's mentioned it. I know he's mentioned it in talks that he gives, is the fact that there seems to, all right, let me back up. Some of the explanations you sometimes get, okay, it's a serial killer. These people are just going missing. There's really nothing to see on there, but the serial killer aspect is always what gets me. Well, some of these areas you have like 8-year-old boys that have very similar personal characteristics, like physical characteristics, and in similar areas go missing like every 23 years or something like that. I'm just kind of ballparking that figure. That's not a human serial killer. And he has said that it's almost like whatever is doing this does it and then waits long enough for the heat to die down and for most people to kind of forget about it, and the people that may be involved in law enforcement retire, and then it does it again. So when you have something like that has almost like a multi-generational plan that it's executing, that's really weird, and that kind of takes the human element out of it. That's really weird. And then I think that the maybe not as far as the people goes, but the fact that dogs start tracking just over and over and over again. And if you look at the cases, it's not like they lose the scent in the water. It's not, weather comes in a lot of times. But a lot of these cases where it's perfect conditions for this stuff. And the dogs, and that's what these dogs are trained to do. These dogs live for this. And we've got a lot of former law enforcement in here, like War Criminal and Martin Groves. They'll tell you these dogs live for that stuff. That's the highlight of their day if they get to track something. And for them just to sit down and refuse to track is completely out of the ordinary. So that always struck me as being extremely interesting. So
it was interesting that I always found it interesting in a lot of those cases where somebody who was like a very, very highly educated person just goes missing.
And to tie into that, the FBI aspect of it as well. The fact that the FBI comes in
and just shows up for a missing persons case.
And we kind of talked about that with our show about the Men in Plaid type thing. And they're there just to monitor the situation.
But they don't show up for any other missing persons type investigation.
Just they show up when
it's so out of the ordinary that it raises a red flag immediately.
And they're there quick. So how are they determining that this case is going to be odd enough to merit their interest in it?
Unless they have foreknowledge about what happened or some sort of connection.
Or unless there's data out there that we don't know about that only they are privy to, that they're able to key into.
I want to pop this up real quick. Pyromedic, thank you for a super chat. We really appreciate it, homie. Mayans followed. Let Joe
cough.
Okay, buddy. All right. The Mayans followed the Cherokee up from South America. We did not cross the Bering Land Bridge.
No, I don't think so either. I agree with you. So, I think there has been some migration across that Bering Land Bridge, but that's not the end all be all. Like it's taught. No, I agree with you 100% on that, man. So
I'm looking through here. Dark Star 9513 says occult warfare is a real thing. Militaries in World War II were very engaged in occult practices, especially the Germans. I think we talked about that last week.
And then they brought those Germans over here to work on our rocket program.
Operation Paperclip brought in a lot of
and that's just what we know
shady
about
folks.
So they brought over the rocket scientists. Did they bring over some of the occultists as well to continue some of that stuff?
I guarantee you they did. The black site project.
Why wouldn't they, man? We're staring down the Soviet Union, and at that point, it's obviously they have taken it seriously enough to invest money in it before, just from what we know. Stargate, everything like that. So yeah, absolutely. I think that they came over, and I think that that continues to be an influence to this day, not over the entire government, but in very compartmentalized parts of the government that wield a lot of money and a lot of power and a lot of influence. And you may not be able to name a single person who's involved in it. They never see the light of day as far as publicity goes, but I definitely believe it.
We want to thank you guys for joining us tonight. We're having a blast with this.
What's up, buddy? Have you ever looked into little people sightings? We have talked about this before. We found small footprints near a cave in North Georgia. We have been finding small footprints in the area that we are currently researching. And we found a very strange small footprint last night. We have found small footprints in the mud in the middle of winter in North Georgia mountains. And nobody's got their kids up there barefoot.
No. And especially the remote areas we go into.
One picture I've got, it's just right between these rocks, and you can just tell that like no modern person's going to walk through there with no shoes on, with the amount of rocks in there. And it's a deep print too.
And a lot of these prints that we find, the toes are splayed. The foot looks like it had never worn a shoe before. It's not the normal, how our feet kind of mold to wearing shoes. These toes end up looking very, very splayed. Like they're like whoever this is or whatever this is wandering through the woods all the time, gripping into the earth. Tank 19 says a humming sounds like the back rooms and Stranger Things. Do you ever feel like everything is somewhat dreamlike while there? So you're talking about the Oz effect, that dreamlike feeling that just everything is kind of weird,
but everything still seems okay. It's very bizarre.
It's okay, but
it seems commonplace. It's not anything to get worked up about, and this is all okay. And then it's not until afterwards that you go, what was that?
Going on? Yeah, we experienced that. We've experienced it several times.
A lot of times we'll be in, like, at the end of the investigation, we'll be in the car, like, late at night or whatever, driving home. And then one of us will just go, do you want to talk about that? And then the floodgate will just open.
Yeah. Well, and it's so weird. Sometimes when I'm editing video, I'm like, why did we not have more of a reaction to finding that? Like sometimes we'll find something and be like, okay.
Part of it too is that your tolerance level for the weird gets higher and higher the more you do this. Like we found a really crazy print last night, right off the bat. We're not going to spend like all night. I mean, doing it. We're going to try to photograph it as best we can. We don't really cast prints. The casting material, we got to carry it on our back and then try to carry the castings out on our back. I mean, it's not like we're right next to our vehicle. But we just don't spend a lot of time on stuff like that. And then people will look at it and start asking us a million questions. And we're just like, listen, we found it, we documented it, and then we moved on to find other stuff. So you do get a little kind of jaded towards some of the lower level stuff, at least. You know what I'm saying? So
Cryptid Response says, here's food for thought. How big would the missing 411 maps be if they didn't kick out cases of any sign of animal predation? Most of the LBL cases would never even hit Polites' radar. Yes.
Because I think all along we're starting to see that he has tried to rule out physical entities, and that he has been focused on interdimensional stuff, portals, and
he seems to be focusing on that more than.
And I think that's where he's always been at, and I think that's why he filters that out. So, because that's always been the thing, is that if there's evidence of predation, if there's like blood or tissue, and it looks like there's been a fight, he kicks it out, and I'm going, those are the ones you should be focusing on.
Well, you're going with the assumption that these creatures wouldn't hurt you, right?
Exactly. So
that's quite an assumption to make. I know a lot of people make that assumption, but I don't know. Deer in Headlights says, those reinforced bunkers with the metal doors deep in the woods are common for emergency safe havens.
Havens from what?
That's what we were looking at. That's like, okay, why do you need something that looks like an above ground, like bomb shelter? It looks like a bunker.
And then if it's just a storm shelter, why do you need a glass pane to look out there? Because again, those were thick pieces of, one was wire reinforced and the other looked like.
And there were 4 locks on the inside of the door.
Yeah, that's crazy to me.
4 locks on the inside of the door. That indicates to me that you were going to get in there, lock yourself down, and wait for help to come. All right.
A lot of good discussion.
I know
going
you
on
guys
there.
are having such a blast in the chat.
second.
Make sure if
Go ahead.
I was gonna make sure that you hit the like button, please, guys. Hit the like button. That just helps us along the way. We really appreciate
Yeah,
that.
and we're starting to finally kind of break the YouTube algorithm a little bit, and that's great.
Don't say that out loud. They'll come for us.
But that just gets us more, and we're hearing just all sorts. It's our big thing with exposure is because then we get exposed. It's not necessarily us getting exposed, but we get exposed to other people who can share stuff with us, and then it gives us more information. We're able to see more patterns, gives us more areas maybe to go in and look at. It's just more puzzle pieces that you only get when you reach a wider group of people that have similar shared experiences, and we can learn about them. So
yeah.
Matt Keene, do y'all want to discuss portal traps? That goes into what we were talking about as far as a missing 411. Everybody's always been in an uproar because David Paulides won't come out and say what he thinks it is. And that's really aggravated a great deal of people. And he's always maintained the position of is that he just wants to put the data out there and that he thinks he knows what it is, but he's not certain. And he doesn't want to ruin his credibility by guessing wrong, basically. But you see the latest documentary he's bringing out, which is the connection to like UFOs and UAPs. He did that TV special where he spent a lot of time talking about portals and whatnot. He really focuses on John Maccabee's wife's case where she saw basically something that looked like a predator. And it seems like he always really pays a lot of attention to those stories that look like they involve some sort of like dimensional bleed, or like you mentioned, a portal trap. There's the one guy that says that he literally took a step and then it's like when his left foot left the ground, he was in an area he didn't recognize all of a sudden. And he sees like a shimmering in front of him, and then he hears a voice behind his ear, and it says, "Gotcha." And he just dives forward, and the next thing you know, he's back where he left out at. There's all of these stories about people going missing, and the searchers can hear them screaming for help. They can't find them anywhere. It's like they can hear the voices, but their physical bodies are elsewhere at that point. So I think that David Paulides is going to kind of try to eventually put a real correlation between the dimensional bleed, the portal traps, and the UAP phenomenon, and how that relates to people going missing on a regular basis. So,
and this is also from Matt Keene.
Thank you,
super
Matt.
Chat. He says that my pocket dimension story fits with the missing 411 discussion going on and the little people. It's really cool to see how many commonalities they are between different phenomenon. And I think we always go back to that these phenomena have been compartmentalized for so long.
Yeah, here's your Bigfoot stuff, and
here's your ghost stuff,
little people stuff over here, UFO stuff's all the way over here, and none of it intertwines.
But the more evidence that we're seeing presented to us, and the evidence that we're gathering ourselves, it seems like everything is connected. It seems like, I don't know if they're all from the same source, if they are just related to one another, if they interact with one another, if they have nothing to do with each other, they're just similar in some way. I have no idea. I have no clue. I just know that it's looking more and more like these things are all connected in some way.
Either they all have a similar origin, a connected origin, or they're just, maybe they have separate origins, or they're so alike that they might as well be from the same thing, if that makes sense.
Yes. So. Yeah. We're still catching up, guys. Make sure you hit that like button.
Pink Dahlia, hey, how are you? Heard something today saying there's over 100 reports in Manistee National Forest in the last 10 years. Dogman, that's just reports. And that's just the people who had a sighting and decided to report it to somebody, and didn't who just walk away and swear never to talk about it again because they didn't want to sound crazy. I always say that I think the reported sightings you don't get a lot of sightings of anything reported from South Carolina because that's not the sort of people that live here. And it's just the way it is. And I'm almost to the point of thinking that a lot of these like documented sightings where people look for patterns in it, there's patterns to be found, but I think the data is so fragmented at this point, it's not really giving you a clear picture of what's going on out there. So that's like the BFRO reports. I mean, we all know the BFRO reports are sanitized. The weird ones are either edited to look less weird, or they're just kicked out entirely. So you can't really use that database. I mean, it's garbage in, you get garbage out. So it's definitely garbage going in. So you can't really take those reports and expect to have like really solid, useful data coming out of them then. So
This is a good one. Matt Keenan says, Joe, is there a peak season where more cryptid sightings take place?
In our area,
we have noticed a huge uptick with
fall and then into the winter time.
Mhm.
And then in the warmer months, not so much. And we've gone over this time and time again. Are they there? But the woods are so noisy and so thick. Because like I said, I can't, unless you've been to this region before, this part of the country is right behind the Pacific Northwest as far as like average rainfall goes.
Yeah, it is a rainforest.
We're in a temperate rainforest, and it's a lot hotter and a lot muggier, and the insects are a lot worse. So when you go out at night, sometimes you can't hear anything because the sound of the insects are so bad, and the foliage is so thick. So we don't know if it's still there, but it's just not. It's so much harder to find. But yeah, for us, fall. I mean, that's why we don't have a podcast coming out this week, because we were in the woods, and like I said, we'll have a really active like research schedule until the weather starts to get really hot again, because this is the prime time to find stuff. So, but even stuff, like lights, like the balls of light that we see, the orbs or whatever you want to call them, those might be going on and we just can't see them because of the foliage as much. But I don't know. My gut instinct is that it ramps up when there's fewer people there.
Yeah.
And if you look at the history of this stuff, even going back to like John Keel, he would notice that a lot of the UFO reports they seem to occur more often in areas that were sparsely populated. You can't tell whether something's happening where there's nobody at, because there's nobody there to see it and tell you. So it might be happening all the time where there's nobody at, but it happens more frequently in areas of sparse population. And that seems to hold true for the stuff on the ground as well, at least through here. So, yeah, for every one of those like Phoenix Light sightings you get where like a whole city is seeing it, there's hundreds, if not thousands, of reports where it was just, one or two people in like a rural or a secluded area.
And I think we've mentioned it before. It's like that time of year is the thinning of the veil.
When you get into fall. So
you get
into
fall, and that's that time that all the ghosts and ghoulies start to go bump in the night. It starts to be where these things can come over. They can come over to where we are a little easier.
The aspect of every 23 years. That is Jeepers Creepers. That was probably in the back of my head. I'm a big Jeepers Creepers fan. So that was every 23 years that he came back out. But yeah, and the Paulides things, that's something that fascinates me, is that something is obviously doing it on a pattern. And David Paulides posited that it's doing it stretched so far apart to allow the people in that area to kind of forget about the previous
Get
one,
comfortable,
and not to see the pattern that you only see when you look at it. The amount of reports that he has, so.
Kim Drescher says, there's been a lot of talk about chronic wasting disease in deer and elk population. Considering these types of animals are a good source of food for these inhumanoids, could this be altering behaviors?
Possibly. Very much so.
I think if you think about, if we eat a diseased animal, we would have effects from that. If humans eat humans, you get prions disease, you get the shakes. Perhaps that could alter behaviors. Perhaps that if you have a population that has a population of deer that have high levels of CWD, then maybe they'll find other food sources because they know that these things are tainted. I think they're intelligent enough to know not to eat a diseased deer.
I don't think these things are here all the time. That's why we don't spend as much time. You talk to a lot of people that are just like, oh, this area has a lot of edible plant life and blah, 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 blah. For every report of that, where you have one, you see like a Sasquatch eating berries, you've got another one that's really credible where somebody saw them in like a suburban area. You know what I'm saying? Just late at night in an area that something that size should not be able to go undetected by like basically everybody there. So I don't necessarily worry about the biological stuff on that as much as I used to, because I used to be really big into that. And now it's more like, I think there are other elements that you need to look for to whether they're conducive for these things being there. And it's gotten weird on me, man. Maybe it's stuff like we talked about earlier about ley lines and stuff like that. Maybe it's the times of the year. Maybe our ancestors, when they were putting all these things forward in like their folklore, don't go out on this night of the year, don't do this, stay away from this area. There's a reason for it. And maybe that's the pattern we need to be looking for, as opposed to, you know, when this particular food source in this area is more prevalent than others. So that's mine. So
Chill Duck says, do you wear any type of biometric devices that record your physical responses during field investigations to see if anything odd may happen?
we wear our watches that test our heart rate and all
Yeah,
that.
that's about it though.
But that's a good idea though. Yeah,
I'm thinking-
almost you treating ourselves like biological sensors at that point.
Yeah.
So that's really
I'm thinking about getting a Whoop strap. I think those are pretty good at really just going really hardcore into your biometrics. And also she said, do you ever test for radiation or EMF?
Yeah, we do. We have
We
have two different types of EMF. We have a low, like an ELF, extreme low frequency detector. We've got a tri-field meter. We've got two different RF scanners, one set to high range, one set to low range. So yeah, we definitely do that. Now it's difficult to use all of those in one area because again, even if we do hike them in, we got to stop, put one away, take one out. But we do test for those, all of that stuff.
And one good thing that we like to do is get baseline readings for an area to see what is normal for that area before we start going deep into the woods and start, you know, stirring things up. And before things start happening, just get out of the car, step a little into the woods, get baseline readings, and then go from there.
But that's really good. At Skinwalker Ranch, they were using plants, tobacco plants and something else as like biological sensors. I mean, we're there already.
Yeah.
Whatever's happening to us is going to happen to us regardless. We might as well see if we can test that.
That's a good point.
It would be really, now obviously like heart rate and everything like that, that's going to be, I mean, our heart rate got up pretty high last night a few times, you know what I'm saying, just because of the stress of the situation. But that might be something we look into doing then. So Ozzy Baza had a, what's up, Ozzy? Have you seen the recent video of the horses that was killed by Bigfoot in his back paddock one night? The horse was screaming, no. Send that to us. I have not seen or heard anything.
When you read it, I thought the horse was screaming no. I was like, well, first of all, we have a talking horse.
So let's go back to that. So
let's go back to this talking horse. Oh my goodness. You guys are talking about my cicada impression a lot.
Yeah, the cicada impression is all right, but let's go to this real quick. The dead silent is hard to understand. When I was looking through the spectrogram today, I was scanning ahead from what I'm listening to. Again, there's just these vertical bars that are the cicadas, you know, chirp, 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 silence, chirp, 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 and it follows a pattern. They're evenly spaced about. And then I would notice breaks in that. I would notice like dead time and the frequency where the cicadas were. And lo and behold, if I went to right to where one of those breaks were, it just took like a second or so before, we would catch something.
Yes.
So yeah, we've had that happen before, but we actually got it on audio last night.
We
these
have,
things are going.
You can see it with the spectrogram. Yeah. And I'm trying to decide how I'm going to deliver this data to you guys. We're gonna definitely have the audio that we got last night and the spectrogram, but you can visually see the bars just in where the cicadas are,
and
you
then
can
it just
see
stops,
it,
and you hear something else.
And then you've got that anomalous sound that we have no idea what it is. And it's so freaky. But I'm thinking of presenting this in a separate video in addition to the video that we're putting out, just so you guys can really grasp what we're showing you when it comes to this. You can visualize the sound. You can see it happen. And it's so cool to see the patterns that emerge from it. And how the cicadas just know to just stop. And
what's crazy is that with a lot of this stuff, we've got pretty good success as far as like wiping out background noise and kind of isolating the sound a little better. Every time I'm wiping out background noise, it's really degrading the sound we're trying to focus in on. So when we release this audio, it's probably just going to have the insect noise in it then, because taking it out is just making what we're trying to like present just incomprehensible at that point. So anyway, that's there. David talks about, we place audio recorders in areas we search, and we've recorded something big with hands, pick up our recorders and sniff them.
Interesting.
Never been stolen or broken. We had something extremely similar happen last night, and it took us a little bit to figure out what had happened with it. And when it happened, I immediately grabbed a flashlight and kind of checked the recorder. We'd both handled it multiple times at that point. So if there was anything on there, it's gone.
Yeah.
But, we didn't even think that was a possibility until we heard the heard what we heard. So
Yeah, and we had something
Mm.
very, very similar to what you're
Mhm.
describing. So it's cool to know that somebody else is having a similar um, thing happen to them. All right, guys, we are looking through here and we are looking at your chat. Again, if you haven't hit that like button, do that now, please. You guys are awesome for joining us tonight. We're doing these live streams every Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, and we enjoy you guys joining us. It's been a fun hangout to do these every Monday. So we love when you guys join us for these. We love all these questions and appreciate all the super chats that you guys provide. What? Okay. Grace has one here. Did y'all already talk about the guy who supposedly filmed a giant and then he made some weird videos where it looked like he was being stalked and now he supposedly suicided himself?
what?
What?
No.
No.
Stalked? No. He filmed a giant. Weird videos where it looked like he was stalked. And no, I don't think so.
We
No,
have
not at
not seen
all.
this at all.
If you can send that to us or even post a link in the chat or anything like that. No, I'm
Yeah, Grace, if you want to email that to us, a link to that, it's hellbentholler@gmail.com. If you could email us a link to that, because I'm insanely
I have
interested in
never
this
heard
story.
of that at all. So yeah,
Yeah,
never.
I am insanely interested in this.
The Dooster wants to know if we've heard about the Kentucky Air National. That's Mentel, if I remember correctly. That was the Kentucky Air
think so.
National Guard that tried to chase a UFO and his plane went down. So he is the only acknowledged casualty, military casualty, as a result of
A UFO?
a UFO at this point. So yeah. And Dewey, you'll have to correct me if I'm wrong, but they have a memorial to him in Kentucky, I think, where his plane went down, if I'm not mistaken. So
Sue Inman says, be interesting to incorporate remote viewing with one of your investigations.
The jury is out with me, at least, as far as she and I have different views on this stuff. I'm not sure that anything remotely involving psychic type stuff or even remote viewing, you're getting that information from somewhere.
Right.
What's providing that information to you and why? I understand. I'm not saying that I disbelieve it. I'm very cautious about any of that, just because anytime you're getting information from an unknown source, as far as I'm concerned, I automatically distrust the source with this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I don't really trust a lot of this phenomena. I think that a lot of it's more tricksterish than anything else. That's just me. Jesse has a different viewpoint on it.
And we've discussed this before. We've discussed this, I think, last week, that Joe believes that ghosts are
demons. I don't believe that there's anything
So,
good with this. I don't believe that there's any, if any of this phenomenon was good and had mankind's best interests at heart, we would already have some answers and some sort of ongoing contact with it, especially mankind, it kills everything it comes. We're killing ghosts, we're killing the spirit world. No, it would be in contact more for us. The only reason why it stays as hidden as it does is because it doesn't have good intentions towards us. And that's just my own personal opinion. So
I just don't know how we would
remote view.
Why would we, when we go to where we're investigating, we wouldn't need to remote view.
Yeah. And I just, like I said, I don't know remote viewing techniques either.
Yeah,
unfortunately.
Neither do I.
But it's interesting. I know they've had some success in the past. It's just that because I'm so distrustful, I guess if you're remote viewing where like a small 2-person plane went down, I could see the benefit to that. Remote viewing anything that is involved with this phenomena or these entities, I don't know if I would trust the information that came through, because I don't know if they have a way to.
Yeah, is that a two-way radio?
Yeah, if they have a way to supply that to you, and it's not going to be for your benefit, it's going to be for theirs.
And also, if you open up your mind, is it always open? I mean, are you able to shut off that connection?
And I know I come across paranoid, but the more I do this, the more paranoid I get. So there you go.
Yeah, because things are a little wacky. Jonestead Farm. Hey girl, how you doing? When we camped in the LBL at 2 a.m., it went completely silent for a few minutes. I was on alert, very uneasy few minutes. Yeah. The things in the forest know. They know when something is around. They know when something's about to happen. They know when when a predator is around. It's built in. Mm-hmm. So definitely trust that. And I mean, we were looking at that spectrogram today and just like, oh my God, it's so crazy. It just stops.
And a couple times it stopped and you couldn't hear anything. And then you would listen again really carefully with headphones on with the volume turned up. You could hear something right at the edge of the microphone. So I think that it was close enough to quiet the insects. We just couldn't pick it up. And then a few times we did pick it up. So I've got one here.
Cool.
So Mikey like said, do you think the recent explosion of information about this topic could be getting us ready for some type of event? There's two on paper different topics, but I think that they're conjoined. Obviously, there's a lot of official release as far as the UAP phenomenon. Now there's becoming some semi-official releases as far as the other kind of weird stuff that goes on in relation to that, to the health effects, the upright canines, the subterranean goblins, the hitchhiker effect, and all that. That's coming out on like a semi-official basis. And I don't think that that's anything that anybody in power really wants to come out. I just think that enough people are starting to whistleblow. They can't keep the lid on it. As far as the explosion of information about Dogman, I just think that it's because the activity is coming up. Yeah. The activity is increasing so much. And I think that there is an ongoing effort to derail conversation, to derail information that comes out. I think they're a little bit more successful sometimes than others. But I just think it's because the phenomenon's gaining steam right now. And there's more and more people who, I mean, again, we thought the whole subject of Dogman was ridiculous up until a few years ago. And we were into this stuff. Yeah. We were open enough to like certain things, but Dogman seemed to bridge too far.
It just seemed like, okay, because I think I always thought about it like a werewolf phenomenon, where it was more of a person that transitions into a upright canine, that turns into a wolf man.
For me, it was the most public facing aspects of the discussion were so unbelievable. And I don't mean to hurt anybody's feelings over that. But the things that you associated with the topic were just so out there, so contentious, even with amongst themselves, that it just seemed ridiculous. Yeah. And we came around, and there's more and more people coming around all the time with this stuff. It's happening more and more often. So I think one of them, it's the government's releasing information to try to stay on top of it and somewhat control the flow of information as best they can. With Dogman and some of these physical entities, I think it's just happening so frequently now that they can't keep them. They can just try to publicly ridicule it. They can try to sow seeds of dissension so that everybody argues amongst themselves as opposed to looking for answers for it. They can do that. But there's just too many witnesses nowadays. There's too many
the toothpaste is out of the tube and it's not going back in. Josh Simpson says, what about a live remote broadcast? That's something we're discussing right now. The logistics of it is something we're working on. We're discussing doing that maybe for...
I lost it. See if you're still on.
Okay.
No.
His just crashed. Okay. That's something we are discussing doing maybe on Halloween, doing a live broadcast on Halloween. So Joe's just crashed. What is going on?
I don't know. It's weird that this stuff works while we're testing it, and then as soon as we get in,
yeah, I know. I'm gonna go ahead and do some more. Hopefully you guys are still with us. Just, I could always just do cicada impressions for the next hour if you guys want that. So, but yeah, it's, we're discussing doing that for Halloween. We're discussing going and doing an investigation and doing it actually in night vision. It's just a matter of getting the equipment to function properly with the night vision, because you can do something with and actually doing an investigation somewhere where we have some sort of signal, where we're able to do that. Thank you for the super chat to Grace. We really appreciate that. You are awesome as usual. Joe, are you back? Are you back with us?
I'm back on. So, we need to start like logging the topics that we start to talk about whenever we have weird activity going. Yeah. I mean, there's certain topics that we seem to talk about, then all of a sudden something crazy happens with our internet.
And that could be us just looking too deeply into it. We do live way out in the woods, so our internet is not the best. But it is also, it is so weird that it just happens sporadically when we talk about certain subjects. Jersey, I'm remote viewing now. He's remote viewing our chat and our live stream.
And again, I don't mean to denigrate it. It's just that if you ask me my own personal opinion, I have a hard time trusting it as it relates to this sort of stuff. I take everything with a huge grain of salt. I'll just tell you, we'll get people in this region who will go, hey, I've got some crazy stuff going on. You should come out to my house at night to check it out. And I'm just like, I'm going to your house at night. I mean, we try to vet everything as much as we can before we move and stuff like that, because this stuff is weird, and it
Oh,
gets
yeah.
weirder the more you do it. And it's just, and with something like that, I don't know. I mean, maybe I haven't had that event happen yet where I walk away as a believer. Um, I just, like I said, maybe that'll happen one day. I mean, I'm open to it, but like I said, my initial thing is that I would not want to trust the data implicitly. I would maybe use that as a data point to look at other stuff to kind of sum it up, but I wouldn't just go basically just on that. So.
Unknown says, have you tried using a ghost box or Estes method in any of your investigations? And if so, did anything occur afterwards? We stopped using it after something had come through afterwards. Be safe. Yes, my friend Katie and we're doing ongoing Estes method sessions at a place nearby that seems to have haunting activity. We have gotten some very, very intelligent responses, and it is very, very close to where we live. So I do feel like something follows us sometimes. I do sage the house and do cleansings on the house, because sometimes we'll be in here and we'll see like shadow figures,
Orange lights outside
the window, knocking. And
this
stuff really, really ramped up when she and I started doing these Estes sessions at that house. So we've been really, really diligent about kind of keeping the house cleansed of those things. And one thing is, I'm always the one on the receiving end, because it seems like I have like a weird connection with this, but I'll put the noise canceling headphones on, the mask on and everything. I can't see, I can't hear anything. And I start to have physical symptoms. I start to have weird physical manifestations. Like
weird physical tics. Stuff like
Joe's
that.
watched it. We film everything that we do over there, but I think I'm going to release it eventually.
That might actually be a good spot for like a Halloween.
That might be,
because the signal's a little spotty, but I think we could
do a live investigation over there. And I would do I guess for that, I would do an Estes.
Because there's been sightings of stuff in those woods as well.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. We've had personal sightings in those woods.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I could do an Estes session over there, and we could do the ghost box over there. We'll probably get Katie to come join us for that. She does a really good job at kind of helping with that. And actually, we could fire up our beacon, the EMF pump.
EMF infrared beacon, and see what we can do up for it. So.
We might do that. That's a good idea. That might be what we do on Halloween for our Halloween live stream. We'll do a live investigation over there. Now it's a burnt out, like abandoned house, but
with bricked up cellars, like outbuildings. There's sometime in the past, there was a wave of house burnings in this general area. And there's just burned down houses that have been overtaken by the woods again, that just are in the middle of them. And some of them have some dark stuff that are associated with them. So
there's a symbol spray painted over there that's associated with a child abduction cult. So it's a weird spot. So I think that might be our
Halloween.
And
it's just weird graffiti. I mean, maybe that's just not something like a group of teenagers are gonna, because that's not really something that's in like the local lore. That's not, people talk about it at the gas station or something like that. It's not really talked about a lot here.
In one of those sessions, something came through and was answering questions. Like I said, I have no idea what the questions are, but Katie's asking the questions, and something comes through and communicates that they are buried out back. And then we find what possibly could be a place.
Looks like a bricked over, like old root cellar or something like that somebody bricked over the entrance and then covered the entrance with a bunch of dirt to hide it. But over the years, the roots have kind of weakened the bricks. A part of it crumbled in. So it's just the size of like the hole going into a rabbit warren. But we lowered a microphone down there overnight, had it to an external battery, and we got the sounds of like children singing coming from underground. So I don't have an answer for that right now. I got a good one here. So our friend Gossalk, any info on human large cat hybrids? Not on hybrids, but north of us, there's a lot of talk of what they call wampus cat. And a guy that Jesse knows had got in touch with us because they were losing cattle. Full-grown cattle were having really severe wounds and had been killed. Calves had been killed and carried off. They thought it was just a regular big cat or maybe some coyotes. So they put out like wolf traps, and something ripped the wolf traps up. And we haven't seen them yet, but we've heard it from two different people that these things are just ripped up. And they think it's the wampus cat. And it's weird because the wampus cat's not really taken really seriously around here. It's kind of one of those kind of joke cryptid type things that you like, like little regional areas will have. but they think it's the Wampus cat. There seems to be some sort of large cat that's up there that's really super aggressive. So we're going to probably try to get up there after the first of the year, and whenever the attacks start back up again, and see what we can find up there. It's a really big swath of land up there, so it's going to be a lot to investigate. And this might very well it might be like a biological creature. It might be like just a large mountain lion that's especially vicious. I don't know how that explains the torn up traps. Or it might be something that's popping over into this reality for a quick meal every once in a while, then going back to wherever it comes from.
Yeah.
So,
do you want to do that one?
Sure. Connection to planet or moon.
Yeah.
Glenn Snyder, any collection of planet or moon alignment with activity? Moon, definitely. There's something to be said about the full moon. The full moon and the new moon
we have a lot, but what's weird is we're in a crescent phase right now,
Yeah,
and we had a lot of weird stuff.
I was going to follow up with that, but like lately it's been a waning crescent moon seems to be, well, no, I take that back, because even some of the waxing. So normally it follows a pattern of full or new, but lately we'll be out on like a new moon and nothing happens, but crescent moons seem to be stirring something up.
Would you attribute that to possibly, I know that you could see, was it Saturn's moons recently? So we've got some planetary alignments going on right now that are a bit out of the ordinary. Or could it be that things are just progressing and getting more intense?
Or are we looking for a pattern where there is no pattern?
Where there is no pattern. Yeah, there's always that possibility.
Because that's the other thing too, is that every time you start to see a pattern with this,
it shakes it up.
Because we'll have people contact us all the time that are just speaking just from a complete position of authority. Let me tell you what's going on. This is what's happening. Any case you give me as an example to back up your viewpoint, within like 5 minutes of Googling, I can find you 20 that are completely different.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, is that it seems like a lot of times this thing will just dangle patterns in front of you. And then when I say this thing, whatever is controlling this, or this unified weird theory or whatever, but again, we go back to, we went into this area looking specifically for Bigfoot. And we instantly get hit with weird lights, weird screams, hex marks in the ground, nothing Bigfoot related in the slightest. Okay. Other than maybe the screams, but then we go back up kind of more geared towards like you would be to investigate something like that. We've got EMF detectors. We've got all this. We get out of the car. We're like half a mile into the woods when we find the best, what you would consider stereotypical Bigfoot track we ever found. We're not geared up for that now. You know what I'm saying? And we went out that night and we're hearing what sounds like chest thumping. All sorts of just traditional Bigfoot stuff. We go back out again, geared up for Bigfoot, and guess what? The lights and everything like that starts back up. So it's just like, it was just pulling us in different directions, and just, it seemed like you're personifying whatever you're dealing with here. You're kind of humanizing it, putting human characteristics to it. But it seemed like something was having a great deal of amusement just watching us bounce from thing to thing, never quite being prepared for what we were going out to look for. So,
yeah. We're going through these chats. We appreciate you guys putting in all these chats. God, you guys are so active on here. We love it. We love it. Cryptid Response says a Wampus cat supposedly has 6 legs, a 6-leg cat.
Yeah, this one they had they've found tracks, but we haven't gotten, again, this is all like secondhand information we're getting, but the big thing is that it's hurting the cattle and it tore up the traps. And somebody had claimed they took a shot at it, that it was just a large black like figure on 4 legs. So I don't know. It could be like a normal like feline. It could be like a mountain lion, something like that. It could be like a large wild dog. But the fact that it's been able to destroy like metal traps up there, that's the thing that kind of takes it into the avenue of the weird at that point.
Yeah.
So.
Also that it has some sort of like super strength or super ability to get out of that sort of situation. Deer in Headlights says, bring an infrasound device into the woods and get some payback with these cryptids. Ghost Adventures had one.
Yeah, Ghost Adventures didn't really do infrasound. They had to generate infrasound. You've got to, again, this is something I nerd out on. To generate up infrasound, you need to have something that can go below 20 hertz. And so you've got to have like a pretty expensive subwoofer that can go that low. And then you've got to be able to generate the signal. Because we watched that episode recently. Do you know what I'm saying? And because as soon as I saw what they were doing, like I stopped and I was just like, all right, let's pay attention to what they're doing. We'll steal the idea. if they were doing something maybe off camera, but what they were doing on camera, I don't think that would generate infrasound.
No.
You look at the people that have generated infrasound. And if you want to look at if you can find it, the old Mythbusters episode where they were trying to generate up the brown note.
The brown note, yes.
Yeah. It took a lot of power. It took a lot of speakers or like subwoofers that are specifically designed to go below that audible range. I mean, you can do it. It's just expensive. It's not mobile. The people that did our infrasound detection equipment are working on a mobile infrasound generator, and it's like the size of like a 55-gallon drum. I mean, it's mobile. I mean, it's like vehicularly mobile, but I mean, we can't carry it on our backs out there. But trust me, that's something I've been toying around about. Is I'd really like to get a small but powerful enough subwoofer, maybe like a signal wave generator, hook it up to that, and then like run an external power source and just kind of pump some infrasound out and see what
just see what happens.
Yeah, just see what happened with us. So
Strange Dominions podcast says, have you guys considered having both mechanical equipment and magical equipment on hand so you're ready to deal with any situation regardless of the phenomenon it seems to be? We do have we have a couple of magical or spiritual fail safes generally. We carry, in terms of weaponry, we have our tomahawks, our guns, our knives. I've blessed all of these items, and in addition to that, we do carry a holy water.
I carry holy water and blessed black salt. I don't know if that's considered
salt.
Magical per se, at least on my end, but blessed type stuff. I don't have a background in any of that sort of stuff, and a lot of times we'll have that in the car. We won't take it out with me because our goal is to get this stuff come up to us.
Yeah, you don't want to put anything out there that's going to be
to repel it
in any kind of way.
I have a background in like folklore, especially European folklore. So a lot of the stuff that are, for those of us of European ancestry, they would talk about things to try to repel or to get rid of these things. We have that. I don't know if necessarily I would call it magical on my end because I'm really not into that sort of stuff. But I mean, like I said, I mean, I have a like blessed holy water, I have Lord's water, blessed black salt, and like a Archangel Michael little glass vial that I'll carry out that I'll have in the car, but we don't usually carry it out with us. So
Strange Dominions follows up with try summoning it. No.
Well, no, we've tried. We've got that beacon thing that we're doing where we're pumping up heavy EM and then sending out real high infrared like light to try to see if we can I don't know if you'd say summoning it, but
that's
maybe
more of a
entice something
as you would refer to as he would say a mechanical form
of
summoning it, not a spiritual form of summoning it. I don't generally participate in summoning anything. I think that's too dangerous to do. So that's not something that I participate in general. I don't want to summon anything. You don't want anything coming to you against its will in some sort of spiritual form. That sounds like bad news.
The Dooster, weird things happen when you mentioned Kate or the
Bell Witch.
The Bell Witch is what he's talking about.
I mentioned Katie earlier, so I think that's what he's talking about. Yeah. So Joel Pittman says, ever consider using electric bikes for stealth quick travel? Would be great for side of road sightings and not giving away your position. Where we go and where we go into, we could not take an e-bike.
We're basically crawling on our bellies at some point to get through some
places
of
are
even
so
in the
rough.
wintertime.
Yeah,
we're just following old game trails and stuff.
So yeah, we just walk through the woods. If there's something out there, this is its environment. It lives there. It's always there. It's one with its environment. Well, maybe not always there.
Yeah, not always
in and out of there, but it's a lot more adept dealing with the environment and being part of that environment than we ever could be. If there's something out there, it knows that we're there. It already knows we're there. There's not really any way that we're going to be able to cover ourselves completely, that we're undetectable by something in that environment. I know a lot of hunters are able to do that, but we're talking about something that is possibly an apex predator. Yeah. So
West Coast Dogman Project, how are you, buddy? I'm over the blurry photos and red circles. That's why I'm going out investigating these things in hopes to see one. Yeah, that's kind of taken over a lot of the Facebook groups, and I'm not going to bust on anybody for what they may or may not choose to determine is evidence. For us, the only reason I even saw value in our thermal image, because that was a partial image, was because it's given off body heat. That's not pareidolia. It's not looking at a shape in the leaves that may be leaves, maybe something else. It's something giving off body heat. I can't say what it was. It was something giving off body heat that had oversized pointed ears and what looked like a muzzle, that looked like it was standing upright, over 6 feet tall, peering at us, and then disappeared and hid after it realized we could detect it there. Even then, people will look at that and go, "Oh, that's nothing." I'm not going to argue with them. You know what I'm saying? You know, it's not proof of anything. It's a piece of data, but it's not proof of anything. Same thing with like all the red circles and all that. I mean, there might be, I've seen a couple that I've gone, there might be something there, but a lot of times we don't really spend time debunking other people's stuff, but that's just, we've taken the same route as you. For us, that's not answering any questions for us personally. So we don't really focus on that. And if other people want to, more power to you. It's not taken away or keeping us from doing what we want to do. So, but we took the same tack that you do, that it doesn't really do anything for us.
Yeah.
If
it works for you, it works for you. But it's just, I want more. I need more. I need more information. I need to be out there. And
because even let's just be honest, there's no evidence that anybody can bring forward that's going to change somebody who's really overly skeptical, short of a personal experience. When we bring this stuff out, we're not trying to change anybody's opinions. You know what I'm saying? We're not even trying to win like a popularity contest in the cryptid world. We're trying to gather data for ourselves, and we're trying to share it with other people that have the same questions that we do. If people look at what we pull forward and they don't believe in it, I don't really care. You know what I'm saying? If people think the whole thing is stupid, again, I don't care. I'm not going to waste my time. What am I going to do? Like win an argument with somebody on the internet, over this stuff? So
never.
Yeah. So, but yeah, like I said, so I mean, we'll see those, and I just, maybe there's something there. I don't know. But I mean, for me, it's just not, I can't even put that into a lot of those into the maybe category,
Yeah.
So
this one's funny. TCR44 says, ever think of using jetpacks and flying over the forest wearing thermal cameras strapped to your heads? That's what some of these suggestions sound like.
Dream about it. Yeah. I mean, we'll get stuff like this, like going, well, you guys need to put out 1,000 trail cams in this area. And I'm going, all right. I mean, do you think that that's within the realm of possibility for 2 people, or you guys really need to do this? And I'm going,
we talked about helicopters last week.
Yeah.
Somebody's like, well, you need to get a helicopter. I was like, oh, great. Let me
yeah, let
me just go get my helicopter, guys.
Yeah.
Jesus.
You can send it to the lab. What lab? You know what I'm saying? We don't have a lab here. We don't have access to a lab. I mean, the only people that really get access to labs are really extremely well-funded groups or people that are doing TV shows. And even then, how do you know that the data that the lab's given you
is correct
in what you sent in? We already know that there's a concerted push. What lab wants to be associated with, we were the people that said that dogmen exist?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So nobody wants that.
Well, there's another thing too, is like it's a lot of this stuff comes from people watching TV shows and thinking that all of a sudden all of the stuff is available. If that was the case, it's not NCIS. It's like you can't have like a supposed Bigfoot photo and then somebody goes enhance, and it clears
those
up.
tech shows have really ruined what people what really goes on out there.
We would have a very clear photo of Bigfoot if we could do that, but we just cannot.
And then it doesn't, 99% of the populations who doesn't already believe is going to look at it and go fake,
Yeah.
You're preaching to the choir a lot of times on this. The only thing that you do is that you just we're just trying to gather evidence for ourselves, if nothing else, to answer our own questions and other people who maybe have similar viewpoints with us that are interested in this stuff. We're under no illusions that anything we're going to do is going to change the majority of the people out there that are skeptical.
Yeah.
But here's the deal. Like we said, activity is growing. Every skeptic is just, some people are so diehard, they're going to deny what happened to them. And we get that all the time. We get people that are trying to come up with, well, Occam's razor, come on, man. At this point, you've drawn up such an unlikely set of circumstances to explain what happened that in itself is more unrealistic than the fact that somebody just saw an upright canine.
Yeah.
But more and more people are getting turned on to this, man. There's fewer skeptics all the time. So
this is a big compliment. We have to do this. Josh Simpson says, y'all want to bring the truth right up to here from out there. Hellbent Holler is our real life X-Files. Surprisingly enough, Joe is not as melodramatic as Agent Mulder.
Not quite. So
we love our Fox Mulder. So that is a huge compliment. Thank you. I love the X-Files.
Barton has a good one. Anyone can say what they think and feel if they want to. The truth is more of a matter of commercial suicide. Exactly. No lab is going to go, hey, we were the ones who broke the Dogman thing, because they're going to lose professional credibility. They're a lab. They make money by having companies, private individuals, government agencies trust their results enough to use them, to pay them to get results for themselves. Hey, we need to set somebody up for, some DNA testing. We're going to be testing the local population of white-tailed deer out here. Don't get this lab. They're the guys who are involved with all that Dogman hooey. Oh yeah, not a problem. People are not going to do that. You know what I'm saying? Most people are not willing to ruin themselves professionally or commercially just to prove to a bunch of yahoos on the internet that the stuff that we believe or that we know is out there isn't that crazy after all. So
I'm just putting up these really funny
Hellbent Hollercopter.
The Hellbent Hollercopter. Jersey said he's sending jetpacks to the lab. Watch the mail. I'm going to need a bigger P.O. box.
Bill Smith, I make a knife model called the Wampus. Nice. I would like to see that Wampus. We are knife people. Matter of fact, Jesse got a new little blade in the mail today.
I got a new knife today. Yes.
I'm going to run to the out here.
I will run after you, okay, gotcha. But I will talk about my new knife while he's going. So I got a new knife. Joe got this for me as a little present because I've accomplished a few things over the past couple of weeks, and he wanted to get me this knife. I have it's a Microtech. It's an exo set, but I have the Hera version. So this is a limited run they did, and it has a mandala on it, but it's aircraft aluminum is the outside of it, and then it's got a all-seeing eye on the back. But the exo set is sort of like a short, stubby Microtech, but it's an automatic. Isn't that cool? And just like the Hera is, all the Microtechs are automatic, but it's awesome. It's got a little glass breaker on the bottom. But that is my Source Microtech exo set. Isn't that beautiful? And then I'm going to build myself a Glock to match it with gold accessories. So I'm going to definitely be a girl about that. But that's my new Microtech that I'm so proud of. I've become a huge Microtech fan lately. So I'm going to go down through the chat now that Joe's gone. Let's see. Yeah, you guys, I have one spooky chick says, I have no desire to try to convince they exist. It's not worth the energy. Yeah, in my day job, I have people who just laugh at me all the time. Like, they find out I have this channel, and first thing they do is they just laugh, and they think it's hilarious, and they try to make fun of me. I don't care. I'm used to it. I don't give a damn. So, but then eventually they sit there and they talk long enough, and then all of a sudden they remember some sort of paranormal experience they've had, or some cryptid experience they had, and they're like, I guess it's not that silly after all. I'm like, yeah, right? Because it's so weird how many people have had paranormal experiences before, but they just kind of like block it out, and they're just, I don't know. I guess they want to just laugh it off, or they want to make fun of anybody that's into this as just being ridiculous or fanciful. But these are real things, and a lot of people have experienced them. And you can't just write that off. You really can't. Let's see. Goshawk had a computer crashing issue. Yeah, we're having issues. Flamethrower. Cryptid response. Yes, we need a flamethrower. I looked at one at Palmetto. I looked at a flamethrower a couple days ago. I will not lie. Microtech is good stuff. Yes. I'm actually going to go now.
Here, you slide up. This is bad form, guys. We're both going to be off.
Yeah, we are. Sorry.
A split second, so.
We're very hydrated. All right. You're in charge. Don't burn the house down.
We're in front of this wall here, so we've got to kind of move out of each other's way when we get in and out. So, all right, let me get caught up on chat here real quick. If she's covered some of these already, you have to bear with me, but wondering if Wampus Cat is hunting the cattle, would it be possible to use a nearby tall deer stand? That's part of what we had kind of planned for. We want to get up in the area. Some people have tried to hunt whatever this is, but they've just gone out at like flashlights at night and stuff like that. So we wanted to try to get up, mask our scent, get up high, and then scan the area. We've got 3 thermal imagers now. 2 are really good. So try to get out and see what we could pick up as far as that goes. But like I said, it's activity on that's kind of quieted down now at this point. we're not really big on going in and looking at historical type activity. We like to try to go into somewhere where there's something going on now to kind of increase our chances of having something go on. So, but anyway, I'm hoping for their sake that activity does not start back up, because again, some of these guys up there were losing a pretty good penny with cattle. Obviously it would be interesting for us, but I would prefer them not to lose out on their livelihood with it. So hopefully we won't hear anything else about it again. But if we do, we will let everybody know. And we haven't actually scouted that area out yet, which we'll probably do before we go up, just to kind of show people how it looks up through there. So
I should have just left you in here to fend for yourself.
So Hex will help cover our electrical discharge, impulse response. They make it next door. Yeah, we're looking at using Hex suits this fall. It's just too hot in the summertime to even consider doing. I know some people use them. I'm not. I'll overheat. But the thing too is my thought is that if it helps with like electromagnetic emissions, it seems like it would help with electromagnetic absorptions as well. So for people that are claiming those feelings of being zapped, I'm wondering if maybe something like a Hex suit would kind of keep some of that electromagnetic energy, if that's what's causing it, away from your body. I don't know. I don't know if that's even, if my line of thinking is right there or not, but that's what we're going to try to experiment with in the fall then. So
we're just going to fill this in with a compliment about us. Say, Jesse and Joe, you guys are awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. Ghetto Yeti says that's a killer knife. It is a killer knife. It's really awesome. I have the Hera version as well. It's just small microtech. But they're awesome. It's just a matching little pair. It's going to be cool.
Did you go this one with Alan Lassiter? Do you think more sightings is cause of population growth moving there on the land, or more people carrying phones with cameras on them? You don't really see a lot of really good cell phone footage. And again, because a cell phone's not really built for that. Cell phones are good for taking, pictures and video of your kid's birthday party, or snapping selfies, or shooting, pictures of like landmarks you go to. But look at what like professional wilderness photographers go through. The trouble, the effort, the expense of their equipment that they have to go through to get workable, usable footage of creatures that are commonplace. You know what I'm saying? And we talked about that Oz factor. A lot of times people have something happen.
And you don't think to pull out your phone to take a picture.
Well, or even in Skinwalker Ranch, they saw that dino beaver thing, and they had thermal imagers with them. And they just afterwards are like, why didn't we pull those out?
Yeah.
That goes on to a certain extent. The things that we saw, the lanky things that we saw on the LBL, I couldn't get a camera up in time.
No, there's no way. There's no way.
I could. Yeah. I mean, it was too quick.
We had cameras in our hands. What do you mean?
Yeah. I mean, but I mean, it went, and I saw it, and I turned my head.
We didn't have time to turn our camera to where it was, much less get a camera out. Nobody else is walking through the woods with a camera in their hand, but us, really. But we had a camera in our hand.
But it was like,
and we couldn't get it.
I tried to follow with my head, and by the time I got to here, I'd have to turn my body. I lost it. It was just like that. It was just so quick. So I think that factors into a lot of it too. Is that people are like, when witnesses come forward, well, where's your photographic evidence at? Hey man, I was looking at like an 8 foot tall wolf thing, trying to get my crappy camera phone, workable at that point was probably the last thing on a lot of these people's minds. I do think that the population growth in a certain areas is affecting some of the phenomenon.
Well, I mean, it's loss of habitat is a real thing. That's a thing with creatures that we know about,
I don't think these things have a habitat. I just think these things gravitate towards areas of lower population. So as the population density kind of shifts around in the country, I think that's going to have an effect on the sightings and all that. So.
Yeah. Joel Pittman has a good idea. Do you guys ever consider cutting up your live broadcasts into more interesting and easily digestible snippets to help with view count and algorithm? And so I can consume the content in my spare time, I guess. Yeah, that's a good idea, because these broadcasts can go long. We go like 3 hours.
It's a time issue though. A lot of times,
because I would have to sit down and cut them up and edit that out, and it's a 2-person job. So
Matt Keenan, why don't people put up a trail cam to watch the other trail cam? You'd be able to see Bigfoot knock down the first camera with the backup one. They did that at Skinwalker Ranch, and the trail camera fell, and the other cameras couldn't tell what happened to it. Now with Sasquatch and all of that, there was a case I've mentioned before that we helped a guy out that us and a few other like independent researchers across the country helped him out. He was having what he originally thought were Sasquatch coming in and trying to like look in his kids' windows at night. And they were just, these things would not stay away from his kids. Well, he ringed his house with cameras. Well, the cameras would get moved.
Mm-hmm.
Then he did what you suggested. He started having to make sure the cameras, each camera was in the field of view of his other cameras. So if something messed with it, he'd be able to get it on the camera, focused towards the camera that was messed with, figured out what did it. Never worked. These things were still getting through. He made like basically an infrared fence around his house, and it didn't help. He would have cameras moved and he wouldn't see what did it. I mean, you get into like all sorts of weird stuff at that point. You get into cloaking, you get into, but I mean, if it can cloak on infrared, then why does it even care if infrared cameras are there? What is it about infrared that these things try to avoid like that?
I think Timothy Renner talks about that it allows you to get audio, but it refuses to let you take photographs.
Yeah.
Know?
So, but I mean, that's why we've got on that beacon, those EM pumps, we've got some like real high NM infrared beacons, like military grade infrared beacons on there, because you usually don't see those in relation to cameras in the woods. So if these things are able to detect infrared, or even though it's biologically impossible to see in the infrared range, it's just going to be these strobes along with these EM things, where our hope is to try to draw something in, because this is such a novel occurrence in the woods. And supposedly these things can sense EMF, generate EMF. Supposedly they can see an infrared. So we're going to put something out there kind of novel for them to try to draw them in at this point. So.
War Criminal 7 says, Joe and Jesse, I'm going to challenge you guys to camp at the LBL the next time you'll go there. We have camped at the LBL.
We don't usually sleep at night. We're usually
up doing stuff all night.
And then we sleep for a little bit in the morning, and then we're up like scouting around. But yeah, we've done it before. It's just, it's a lot of times we're just like, why do we even bring this tent? We're not, we didn't spend any time in it,
Yeah. And, I guess somebody mentioned at one point before about setting up a camp and trying to look normal and drawing them in, but we could do that. We could test that out and see how that works for us. But you guys like our videos, how we do it. You like how our investigations go. We like to run around the woods all night. So, but we have camped out there. We just don't sleep, or we're completely unable to sleep out there. It is a weird, weird place. We will be going back soon.
Jill Duck is out. Jill, have a good night if you're not already on here.
Yep,
or
goodbye.
Know that we
good
wish
night,
you a
Jill.
good night. Thank you for popping in as always and everything you do. So, unknown, Joe had mentioned Todd Standing in the past. Todd offers public expeditions to his fans. If y'all find a good location, would y'all be interested in offering something like that to your fans in the LBL?
That is an idea we've batted around recently.
You have to, one of the things you always hear about is you always hear somebody's going to trot forward an earlier dogman or Bigfoot researcher who used to do, expeditions, but the government shut him down. They demanded that he have licenses and permits. Well, you need licenses or permits.
This is public land.
If you do anything on public land like that, where it's a commercial endeavor, if you have a survival school, if you are teaching camping skills, if you were teaching wilderness first aid, if you're teaching like that, and you're going to use public land, you need to get permitted by the government to do that. If you're going to be doing, let's say you're taking a bird watching expedition out to an area and you're charging people money for it, the government's going to want to get you to get a permit. Now, that's not to say that the government maybe doesn't crack down harder on strange kind of outings like that than others, but we'll never know because most people don't get the permit. That's like saying we were going to the Dogman conference and we got pulled over by the cops because they don't want to get us to sit there and talk about it, but we didn't have a license plate on when they pulled us over. And that's what they said, they pulled us over.
Yeah.
So you've got to have the permitting done for it. The other thing too is that Todd Standing charges a lot of money, man. It's like in the thousands of dollars. And I know that where he goes to, it's pretty inaccessible. For us, I don't see us charging people money like that to do stuff like that. Did you hear that? Yeah, I did. So, the other thing too is when you charge people money for things like that, we go out all the time and nothing happens. You know what I'm You're basically charging people for
Yeah, that'd be something I'd be worried
a
about. Like,
camping trip at that point.
yeah.
So, but at the same token, though, I think that we're, not to toot our own horns, but we're a little bit better suited to doing that than a lot of people. Just because we'd be able to get you out there and back in one piece. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's true.
You'd have to, you know, as far as like from safety and like first aid and everything like that, we'd be a little bit better suited for it on that. We go tech heavy, so it wouldn't be just as simple as sitting around a campfire at the local KOA and then taking a bat and banging on a stick. You'd be able to run thermal. So we've thought about that, and it's not even, I don't even know if what sort of like money would be involved, or it wouldn't be anything like that. It would basically just be able to let people who don't normally have the ability to get out and do this kind of experience it. That would be kind of cool.
Yeah,
But
that would be fun. And maybe, and I don't think we could ever do anything with like a ton of people, just because what is unique about our expeditions is it's just the two of us, and I think that's why we get so much activity.
Yeah. But Todd Standing also, this is how he makes his living. he dude probably makes 6 figures a year just running.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't do that, man. I wouldn't feel right charging people that much money to go out for something that you can't really control what happens to them, whether they see or experience anything or not. So
Unknown says, could you read that for me? Because I think
if you tried using
I
scent
think I'm
hiding
dying.
spray, sometimes we will use scent hiding spray, other times not. Sometimes we try to go out stealth, even though I don't think we're fooling anything. Other times we just go out like normal hikers. So we have used that in the past, though. Like I said, we mix it up. We try not to take the same approach every time we go out.
And varying our approach, I think that's part of like our version of the scientific method is varying our approach. We see what works, what doesn't work, and just kind of like make note of, all right, so this time of year you get more activity. Okay, we'll see about next time. Cover our scent, go silent, use red light instead of white light. Do our scent experiments. We do all kinds of stuff like that. We're just trying to vary the approach to kind of shake things up and see kind of what stirs up activity.
Quartz grinder photography will put on the notion of wildlife photo equipment. As a wildlife photographer, so you know what I'm talking about, it's a completely different detail of photo. Depth of field and long lenses are key. Not somebody's iPhone is not really set up to do that. We use GoPros because we need during the daytime because we need something that's small, maneuverable, has pretty decent picture taking ability, but is also durable. It's not going to short out with us if we get rained on. But that's not what a wildlife photographer uses. They use completely different equipment. And like I said, at night, especially at night, we're experimenting with the full spectrum because it seems like it picks up some of this stuff better. Pretty much all the TV shows that you see, there's camera people with them, there's sound people with them, and they're not really able to get a lot of stuff, I think, again, the more people you get lumbering around in the woods, it's easier for this stuff to not necessarily evade you, but it makes it less likely to kind of show itself.
Yeah.
So
Strange Dominions podcast says, how do you guys feel about the cryptid activity that happens in extremely population dense areas or extremely small natural areas? My craziest encounters were in tiny woods very close to houses. What I think about this is this just adds to, it supports the theory that these things are not natural animals. That these things are not just a large monkey in terms of Sasquatch, a large monkey running through the woods. Because if you have an area that could not support wildlife like that, why is it there? It makes no sense. But if this is something of a more supernatural bent, then it would have the ability to kind of come in and out of these areas without detection, because we don't know how they're crossing in, how they're getting there, whether it be extra dimensional or you don't understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, and for me, it's I sound like a broken record with a lot of this because I was never, quote unquote, into UFOs. I mean, obviously there was some validity to the subject. It wasn't something that interested me a great deal. I was interested about stuff on the ground, stuff going on,
People would ask me about UFOs and aliens, and I'd be like, I hate aliens. I don't want to talk about aliens.
It's all that changed again with like the UAP disclosure that came out, where we're seeing that a lot of this stuff's really, it's intertwined to a greater degree than what we previously thought. Even somebody like me who, again, 10 years ago would have just sat here and talk to you about relic hominids, and a monkey came across the land bridge, you know, and da 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 da, and there's evidence for it in the fossil record and everything. And I've thrown all that out the window at this point. But the thing that has been most interesting about the UAP slow roll disclosure that they're doing is, again, the book Skinwalkers, the Pentagon, that came out. And these people talk about the hitchhiker effect. And one of the manifestations of this hitchhiker effect was upright wolf-like creatures that followed one of the investigators home, who was a government, you know, he was involved in government intelligence to a certain degree. And he was there working with, you know, all of the NIDS guys. And they had a sighting, him and two other people. He came home, went overseas, and his wife and kids started seeing this upright wolf in their backyard in suburban DC. That is not a terrain where you would expect a large, strictly biological, just, you know, an undiscovered creature to be at. They weren't the only ones who saw it. Their neighbors began to see it.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever it was physical. It was infecting the environment. They said that the tree that it was leaning on, they found claw marks on. They found footprints where it was standing at. So it was physical. It wasn't just completely ethereal, but it was something physical that got into somewhere it shouldn't have been able to have gotten into. Suburban DC, a little neighborhood, a backyard with white picket fences, and then got out again and then just disappeared. So I think that when you get those sort of like reports, that's another nail in the coffin that these are just wolf hybrids that have learned how to stand up, or monkeys, the North American monkeys that we haven't been able to find. It's physical. It can affect the environment. It can affect people. It can hurt and kill people. In some cases, they can be killed. And again, like we've talked about in the past, I think there's more than one thing going on that we lump in as Sasquatch. I think there's more than one thing going on that we lump in as Dogman. I think there might be completely physical creatures that the government has tried to make to emulate the things coming from somewhere else for whatever reason. But I think that when you get into these things, that puts the high strangeness front and center with this stuff. That's what always gets me about these people, you know, these Bigfoot groups that are, it's just an undiscovered monkey. It's just an undiscovered monkey that has self-illuminating eyes. And then they go into this about bioluminescence.
That can apparently detect and see IR.
That a warm-blooded creature shouldn't be able to do. That can cloaking, all these, well, it's infrasound. None of this stuff, they want to trot science out to explain this away, but then they mangle accepted science at this point. I would rather have somebody stand there and look at me and go, it's a freaking mystery, I don't know what's going on, than take something that we do know what's going on with it and mangle it to the point where it's unrecognizable.
You're trying to put that square peg in a round hole.
It's a drowning man grasping at straws at that point. You're trying to find, you're so unwilling to admit that there might be something going on outside the bounds of what you understand about the physical world, that you're twisting the physical world that we do understand up to try to explain it away. Doesn't make sense. I mean, don't try to explain one unknown with another unknown. Why not?
Yeah.
Maybe the answer is another unknown.
Maybe it's an unknown that's connected to the other unknown. It's connected to the other
unknown. So at this point, you can't say what the answer is or is not at that point, you know? So
I say just follow the evidence.
Follow the evidence where it takes you, no matter how weird it gets. So.
Yeah, and it's going to get weird. Tracker says, Joe and Jesse, have you ever noticed crows and ravens guiding you into the mountains? I, for some reason, have a vulture problem. Black vultures seem to, we had a bad problem with that in the LBL, that I had vultures following us. We had vultures following us everywhere we were going, especially when we were near Station 16. We just had vultures, and like one got really close and I got freaked out. One got really close to us. But yeah, it seems like a lot of the places we go to, it's more of a vulture issue, not a raven or crow following us in.
Todd Hall, we put up security cameras and caught lots of orbs, or did the cameras somehow make them? What's y'all's take on that? I've never seen that with my own eyes. We've had the exact opposite. We've seen this stuff with our own eyes and caught it on our handheld cameras, but we've never really gotten anything odd on our security cameras around our house. And as the weird activity around our house has kind of increased, our number of cameras that we have out has increased as well. What we do get is cameras cutting on for no apparent reason sometimes. Something triggers them. We had a few just the other day that the camera came on for no one reason. You know, maybe it's a squirrel that's just there for a split second and then gets out of the way. We got a ton of squirrels around here, but that happens. We've never gotten balls. Now we
found our cameras on the ground.
Something's knocked cameras down before that we didn't catch in frame what did it, but now
one of our cameras was upside down.
Yeah,
it got turned upside down.
When I went to check it, all of a sudden it was right side up, and then it was the next set of videos that it shot, because it's not on all the time, it's motion activated. The next one was upside down. If I had knocked it off and just forgot about it and then put it back up upside down, you would have had the clip of me knocking it off. The camera's moving, so the frame is moving. No explanation for that at all. But we've never caught orbs or anything like that. Now other people have. If Cryptid Response is still on here, I mean, he and I are familiar with a case where a guy was catching really, really weird lights that looked like floating balls of plasma that were just kind of coming out of nowhere on camera. It was like insane. First thing I'm looking at it going, this is impossible. I mean, but it happened. The guy had footage of it. It's just, we've never had any experience with that at all. Can I get this one real quick?
Yeah, go for it.
Glenn Snyder, have you heard about the fighter jets 2 miles up with IR and the being put its hands over its eyes? I've heard about that. The thing is that if this is a normal biological creature, it's warm-blooded, and warm-blooded creatures shouldn't be able to see in infrared. Now, they think that some canine species can somehow sense heat, but they can't see it. They can't see that wavelength. Your own body heat interferes with it. But at time and time again, these things seem to demonstrate the ability to detect infrared light. Bioluminescence, like these self-illuminating eyes, that doesn't occur in mammals. Okay, that's with fish and insects. If it did happen, you have you want to use science to explain this. Your eyes, light receptors, you're catching light that's bouncing off other objects, and your brain's interpreting that into the vision that you see. Well, if you've got light coming out and light, that's not physically possible. Okay, again, you're dealing with creatures that have physical aspects that don't conform to what we know about the natural world. And if you want to try to say it's a monkey running around the woods and you're cherry picking little things that you've heard about that occur in nature, but don't match up with what you're dealing with. You're making it a bigger mystery at that point than if you just went, I don't know what it is.
Yeah, we need to explain why these apes are acting like this. Unknown says, have y'all had encounters with shadow people? Have seen a lot of YouTube videos of people capturing a lot of shadow people. They seem to appear a lot more in those negative oriented areas like Skinwalker Ranch. I've seen shadow people over the years. We've seen them in this house recently. We've seen what I wouldn't describe as a shadow person. What we saw in the LBL, that was not a shadow being. It was more solid. It wasn't like transparent.
In the LBL, what we saw was not a shadow being in it was extremely fluid.
It was
unnaturally fluid, but it was solid. What I saw moved the branches. The branches were moving as it went through it, and the branches continued to bounce after it got out of my line of sight and disappeared. What's crazy is that the ground dipped right through there a little bit. Remember, that's where that little landfill thing was, and it didn't seem like that altered its gait or anything, but it was physical. So I don't know, but we've seen other things that just seem to be like black masses.
Yeah.
We didn't really talk about this that much, but the one, I think it's the second LBL of the last series we did, the one where we're around that rusted out building where we caught the singing and everything in the woods. We put a shape in that I caught that was peeking out from behind a tree.
Yeah, I don't think we mentioned it.
We just put it in.
We put it in to see if anybody would see it or notice it or say anything about it. But we had it on.
It's on white hot.
It was on white hot.
So I'm seeing something poke out of you always hear about tree peeking in relation to Sasquatch, and it peeks out from behind the tree at you. This thing had kind of sloping shoulders, but kind of a conical head, and it's coming out from behind the tree.
But it was showing up black, which means it was insanely cold.
It was colder than the concrete that was also within my field of vision, just a concrete pad on a winter night in Kentucky. This was colder, and it was like kind of the outline of something. You see a head and shoulders, but there was nothing there on the naked eye. I looked at it with a flashlight, and there's nothing there. And then when I did it like the second or third time with the flashlight and then brought the thermal back up, it was gone. We never saw it again. But it was an outline of a figure that was colder than its surroundings that didn't show up on the naked eye. Is that something cloaked? I don't know, man. I don't know. But I couldn't see it. It wasn't there. It wasn't there to my eye,
The
but
thing,
it was there.
yeah,
So,
and the thing that we saw, it wasn't human shaped. It was not human shaped at
the
all.
thing that we saw running,
The thing
what do
that
you know? It was,
No, it was not human shaped at all. The arms were too long.
it was
The
too
fingers were
gangly. It
too
was
long.
lanky. It looked like it had an extra, like too many joints. It didn't look like it was evolved to.
And the way it walked and moved was just
Didn't look like
completely
it was.
unnatural.
Yeah, it was unnatural. That's the only word for it. So we still got 142 people in here. We'll carry on a little bit longer, guys. I know these get a little long, but
Yeah.
we'll go a little bit more, and then we'll call it a night.
Yeah,
But
we let these run long. I know, but you guys are so interesting. You guys are like
a lot of good stuff here,
a
man.
lot of good
So
stuff, a lot of good conversation. If you haven't already, make sure you hit that like button for me. Make sure you share everything that we do. Make sure you're subscribed. You have your notification bell on. We've got a really amazing field investigation video coming out this week that we alluded to it earlier. It is really strange. A lot of really
Yeah.
strange stuff happened. We filmed everything over the past couple of days, so it's just been I don't know. We've got a lot to go through with the audio because the audio we captured is absolutely
yeah. And there's really no way to clean
disturbing.
it up. Just the insects are like across the entire frequency range, that killing them out just, it really messes with the stuff we're trying to isolate. So we're just gonna probably have to present it as a whole, and you'll just have to kind of listen past the insects. Alan asked, we have shadow people in my house. I think that the shadow person phenomenon, it's weird because we've been listening to a lot of old Art Bell at night, and Art Bell was really into the whole shadow person phenomenon. And then it just seemed like it kind of drifted off for a while. But you're starting to hear people talk about it again. And I mean, we keep talking about it. It's like, it seems like the veil's thinning. And I know that's something you can't really quantify saying, but it just seems like the breadth and the sheer number of these experiences and encounters that people are having, it just seems like it's growing, you know? I mean,
and we talk about, you know, what is causing this? Is it a collective unconscious? Is it everybody kind of Alan Lassiter just came on the chat and just said, I think the shadow people are caused by negative energy.
it might be.
It could be influence from the collective unconscious. It could be from spiritually charged areas. It could be a number of things.
And I don't look at it to try to debunk it, but I try to look at it from every point of view. And you even go, is this kind of some sort of shared delusion? Is it a delusion is it like some sort of psychological meme that just is being spread and shared and everything like that? What people are joining a trend of talking crazy and making your relatives and your friends think that you're nuts. That's not right. It's not. People are coming out and seeing it. They're seeing this stuff. There's no upside to reporting this stuff. There's literally no upside to sit up all night long watching a couple of weirdos talk on YouTube and then go, I've got shadow people in my house, unless it's really happening.
Yeah,
I mean,
there's no real positive that comes, you know, that you're not, there's no financial incentive. There's no like social incentive there. So you've got a question, Joe.
Yeah, I saw that. What's your biggest fear, concern when doing field investigations? I am still coming to grips with the weirder elements of this stuff. I always approach this as like a sheer flesh and blood thing. Like, I hate saying phenomenon and phenomena over and over and over again, but I always approached it. That was flesh and blood. I thought Bigfoot was an ape for a while, but then I got into like a whole relic hominid thing. But I never really spent a lot of time thinking about a lot of this stuff, like metaphysically, if you want to call it. So I still have to come to grips with that. That weirds me out a little bit. I'm not comfortable with if you guys saw like the LBL thing, when I saw that woman's figure, that's what really messed with me the whole night long. That like shook me. I mean, that was odd. I mean, I just literally that just knocked me back on my heels. When I saw that thing on thermal, I was concerned and I wanted to get out of there and kind of try to process what I saw, but I didn't get as shaken as what I saw that woman, man, you know. And again, I just, you know, when you see us, we kind of will turn our flashlights on and off at random times and kind of scan around us. And I just looked over my shoulder and saw her right there. And we had seen that somebody had desecrated that cemetery. And for a split second, my first thought was, because she looked so angry, that I was like, this is somebody who's visiting a cemetery. I know it's the middle of the night, but that's just what I thought at first. and she's upset because she sees that somebody has used the cemetery as a toilet and we're the only people around. She thinks it's us. All that goes to my mind in like a moment. And then as I'm realizing the absurdity of that, she just gone. You know what I'm saying? And when I talk about that she's gone, I can't even describe how she was gone. It wasn't like she faded from view like Star Trek teleport or anything like that. And it wasn't even like a sudden snap, but it kind of was. She was just gone. And I mean, that really rocked me back. So that sort of stuff really bothers me. From the physical aspect of it, like last night, we had sound coming from us from all ends. It started up in one end, and then it seemed like it was all around us. So obviously, we go armed and everything like that. And I feel pretty confident in my ability to take care of myself. But you're dealing with stuff out there that operates on a different level than you do. And I hear people bandy qualifications around all the time on why they're more qualified than somebody else. I don't think anybody's qualified to deal with this stuff. I don't think anybody's qualified to deal with this stuff. I know how to track, you know what I'm saying? I know how to shoot. I've like been in like violent experiences in my life that normal people would probably look at and be a little aghast at. I'm not qualified to deal with this stuff. I don't think anybody's qualified to deal with this stuff. Oh, I was a this and this and this. Great.
And even people who have been researchers for extended periods of time. I mean, that I don't think that when they're faced with the whole of the situation that even they're prepared to deal with it, whether it be physically or spiritually, emotionally. I just don't think that
a lot of times I'll look at her and just go, we're so in over our heads right now with this. And again, we get contacted by people all the time that are just like, let me tell you what's going on. And they think they have it all figured out. And then they tell you these things and it requires these huge leaps of faith and they can't tell you how they arrived at this conclusion. And maybe they're right. I don't know. But I mean, again, we're trying to follow the data. If you want to show me something, let me follow the data with you. Tell me how you went from point A to point B, even if it's just a personal experience. I believe people who get in touch with us, I believe people like Martin Groves who go, I can't tell you what it was. I can just tell you what happened to me. This happened, this happened, this happened, this happened. This is what I think it is, but I'm not sure. All I'm sure of is what happened to me. That's believable to me. People that get in touch with us going, well, it's this, and they're just speaking just from this sheer position of authority. I don't think anybody's got it figured out, man. And that's frightening to me is that you've got people that have looked into this for like decades and nobody's got it. I don't think anybody's got it figured out.
And it's, it's okay to say that you don't have it figured out. That's perfectly fine. I think we get better every time we go out. We learn something every time we go out. We kind of add to our skill set a little bit, but I don't think we'll ever be fully prepared.
We chase this stuff with tech. We are constantly learning new, like I said, we're constantly learning new stuff. We are, and again, and again, like I said, we're a couple of people that at the end of the day, we're amateurs. We have day jobs and we do this as a second full-time unpaid job.
Mm-hmm.
You had people on the government bankroll that had a very wide skill set with Skinwalker Ranch and they didn't know what was going on. They were baffled by all of it. That doesn't mean you quit looking, but it is a lot of times you kind of go, what are we even doing here, man? It's like we're in quicksand, just trying to keep our heads above water at that point. So I don't know.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's what we're into. I mean, at the same token, are you not going to look? I mean,
we can't stop now. We're committed. Ghetto Yeti says, hey guys, what do you think about the pale beings Rake Crawler actually are? I really doubted their existence, but so many sightings and actual evidence is off the scales the past few years has been definitely, I don't know, there's more to that. But anyway, sightings of Rake Crawlers. That started out as a lot of that started out as a creepypasta.
The Rake was like a Reddit thing, I think, creepypasta, but there's a history of
like
Hopkinsville Goblin, Dover Demon,
white, pale humanoid
things that you can look back. There's parallels in European mythology. I'm sure that there's other mythologies and folklore across the world that have parallels as well that I'm just not aware of. But it keeps coming back to this. There are these the moon-eyed people with Cherokee come from underground, pale white, hairless, large eyes. I think the Rake was a made-up topic that happens to parallel with real creatures that are out there. And maybe the name was made up, but I think the name is very applicable to what people are experiencing. So have at it. You know what I'm saying? You know, maybe those first rake stories on Reddit were just completely made up, but what they made up has a lot of parallels with what's actually going on out there.
Or, I mean,
Yeah.
if you think of it in terms
Ghouls,
of
exactly. Jay Bates ghouls. It's what I was thinking about, parallels with other things, like just these ghouls. So
Can I speak?
yeah,
Can
sorry.
anybody?
Sorry.
Okay. If you think about those in terms of a tulpa, and I know the tulpa idea has been beat absolutely to death, but that it came into the zeitgeist, and then all these people started believing in it. You had those kids who killed their friend for the Slender Man. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? Like, you have people who have such a deep belief in this. Does it manifest it out? Or if the fact that people are believing in this and there's such a mass amount of people who are contributing to this and believing in its existence and feeding into it, could the other, or a trickster element, or whatever we're dealing with on the other side, could it present itself as something familiar? Could it present itself in such a way that it's coming to you as this creepypasta creature?
Why does it have to be either or? Why can't it be all of those? Just
It
like
could be.
just like we think that there's more than one thing going into what we consider Sasquatch, more than one thing going into what we consider Dogman. Why can't there be multiple entities that share similar physical characteristics and traits that we lump in together under rakes or the pale crawlers or anything like that? I mean, but definitely it is something that I used to dismiss. And then again, part of the stuff that came out about UAPs, they talk about government funding searches for werewolves and goblins, pale, hairless, white creatures that were seen enough that the NIDS guys, you know, Bigelow's team, started to research that, as well as these like werewolf reports. They're seen in Kentucky. They're seen in, you know, they're seen in the out west. We have parallels to them in here in the mountains with the Cherokee Moon-Eyed people. So I just think that, yeah, I mean, where there's smoke, there's fire, and there's a lot of smoke for this right now. So yeah, I've changed my way of thinking on it. So
Let's see. Kaiju Ninja 1985 says, "Do you think you've experienced ghost activity while in your cryptid investigations? Have you captured EVPs?" We have experienced what I would call ghost activity. We've actually gone out seeking paranormal type ghost activity before.
I would say that we've encountered activity that could
Be labeled as such.
labeled as ghost activity, even though it's not the spirits of dead humans causing it. But
Mhm.
yeah. So, but I mean, yeah, we've definitely experienced it. I mean,
We've-
a lot of like Class B encounters, Class B Bigfoot encounters. Oh, I was in the woods and a rock got thrown at me. Oh, I was in the woods and I smelled a bad smell. Oh, I was in the woods and I heard this disembodied screaming that I
That's
couldn't figure out
all
what it came from.
poltergeist type activity.
If it was
so-
happening in a house, you'd call an exorcist.
Yeah.
You know, but instead, because it happens in the woods, you just you glom onto the fact that it's got to be a Bigfoot.
Mhm.
So.
And I think on our second LBL werewolf experiments video, we caught, I wouldn't even call that an EVP because we could hear it with our ears. We could hear the screaming and the crying and the singing.
Yeah,
in the
but
woods.
It's disembodied. We couldn't find where it came from.
But you know, it wasn't something that is not heard to the human ears. It's just when we review the audio. Now, I've gotten several EVPs, and I have them in some of my videos, that we couldn't hear it. I think when we found those hex marks behind our tent, there were some EVPs on that.
Disembodied voices. And again, I think that phenomenon's real. I don't think it's caused by dead people, but that's just me. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm just, you know, I know that I've got a very individualistic view on a lot of this stuff. I don't think that, I think that you're dealing with things. I think you're dealing with things that are intangible, that behave like what you think ghosts behave like. I just don't think they're ghosts. And that's where I stand at on it. So, and anything that I've seen or had related to me shores that opinion up. You know what I'm saying? People who have tried to convince me that they're ghosts just end up making me that much more determined that they're not. Now, again, I'm not to say that I might not have an epiphany one of these days and completely change my point of view, but it hadn't happened yet. So that's
Joe, have you thought about rocking some blue hair highlights?
I have not, man. He's
gray all the way.
I'm all gray, so it would that blue would get in and not get out. So
yeah, he's gray all the way.
We can't be fighting over the bathroom in the beard. So, All right, guys, we're coming up on 3
Yeah, we are
hours.
coming
Anybody
up
got
on
anything
it.
on the last few minutes they want to bring up or talk about? Or
Last call for
last
alcohol,
call for it,
everybody.
guys. So
I'm going to go ahead and say we really appreciate you guys joining us for these. This is always a very insightful conversation. I always say that we have the best viewers, we have the best
Yeah.
commenters, we have the best people that send us encounters and theories. You guys are so insightful, and you guys really think about the subject.
We've gotten a really thoughtful, inventive, intelligent group of people, and that's not blowing smoke. That's just because I see. I watch some of the same shows that you guys do. You know, you just kind of surfing through YouTube and you see something, and it's a lot of the people that are in our chat and like send us messages are just like next level. I mean, it's like insane. Was it Jill earlier that had the idea about doing biometric monitoring of ourselves when we're out? I'm going, I've never thought of that. That's such a good idea.
Yeah. How would an encounter or how being around this phenomenon would affect you physically?
Yeah. But I mean, we don't approach this that we're experts on anything. You know what I'm saying? We're experts on some of the equipment we use and some of the techniques, but as far as like the actual the things themselves, you know, we're whistling in the dark like everybody else. So we like hearing like the good comments like that. So but like I said, we've really appreciated it. Kaiju Ninja need jetpacks and flame. We do need jetpacks and flamethrowers.
I support this. That's what we're putting all those super chats tonight towards: our jetpacks and flamethrowers and the Hellbent Holler copter.
Do you doing anything for Halloween? I think we're talking ourselves into, if we can find a right location, we'd like to do a live stream on Halloween. When we live stream, we're going to have to be feeding the camera into the phone, the night vision camera into the phone. I think I got that figured out for the most part. The only thing is that you can't charge the phone while you're doing it. So how we can live stream from the phone at 100% down to the phone at 0%, and that's it.
Yeah.
Because the charging port is going to be the camera feeding into it. So it's going to be limited, an hour and 15 minutes or something like that. But we think that's what we're going to try to do. We were also thinking about, these have been usually pretty free flowing. We don't come in like prepared for anything or any topics. We kind of like let the chat steer the discussion, whichever way it goes. We're thinking about doing, we've talked about Art Bell so much tonight. Remember the old Ghost to Ghost episodes they've done? And everybody in the chat usually has such like great experiences. We were kind of bandying around the idea about maybe the week before Halloween
having like call-in show, but it would be we used StreamYard, but we would send a link and then you could join. And
as long as everybody understands, we do have tech difficulties. Somebody might get kicked off occasionally. Don't get upset, but we're thinking about maybe doing that, like having like just kind of a viewer ghost story like episode one night, like maybe the week before Halloween. So if you guys have any interest in doing that, or if you guys ever have any topics you want us to cover on these live streams, I mean, we do the podcasts that are topical. They're usually like whatever weird topic we're interested in that we don't hear anybody else really talking about the way we talk about it. But if you guys have any ideas for like a topical live stream one night that you guys would want to do, hit us up. If there's enough interest in one particular topic, we'll do it.
Up. Sue Inman says, my first chat here. Thank you for honesty and being you. Thank you, Sue, for joining us. I'm so glad that we could be your first chat.
Hey, good deal.
Yeah, absolutely.
Arnaldo, I believe that fire will kill anything. Arnaldo, I'm of the same opinion. I think that if it can touch you, you can touch it back. I think that unfortunately some of these things you can't touch, that they can mess with you mentally, maybe affect your health, but the old, if it bleeds, you can kill it type thing. So
I'm seeing some of these chats that are making me laugh.
Halloween's a great idea.
Yeah, so I like that. I like the idea. We're gonna start shaping that up. We're still working on a little bit of the wild and weird stuff.
You don't see people really live streaming night vision for a reason, because
it's very hard.
It's difficult to do. My first 3 ideas fell through.
It's very difficult to do, especially if you want it in a in-motion kinetic environment.
Yeah, I mean, a 4K camera overloads the phones.
Like if we were going to be in a haunted house and I could have like a table and set everything up on a table and just do like a live stream from a location that, I mean, that I'm telling you, ghost hunters have it so easy. You have no idea.
You're in a crew, you're in a house with power, you've got like a TV crew with you. If anything gets weird, you just walk outside.
Yeah, just walk outside, walk down the block for an hour or something. Like we really chose the wrong thing to go into.
Yeah,
didn't
but
we?
I think that I've got the tech side figured out. There's a few more pieces I need to pick up on that. And again, we're going to be limited to just the lifespan of the phone. When the phone dies, we're done. And we can only use the one phone because it has to be an Android. Apple, apparently you can't use it. I have an iPhone. She has an Android. So her phone from 100% down to the point where it dies, we could live stream around a house where we've had activity, in some woods where we've had personal activity. There's a highway that runs nearby it, so you'll hear traffic probably a little bit to a certain extent. It's a few miles from an old state highway, but I think that's what we're going to try to do for Halloween, maybe on Halloween night, if there's any interest in it. Now, we won't be able to respond to the chat. So we might be able to rig it up where I can see some of the questions and stuff like that, but we won't be as interactive as we normally are. But that's what we're kind of leaning towards for Halloween, if there's any interest in it. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah,
a lot of this is to kind of take you guys along on the journey with us. So
yeah. So we're gonna look into doing that, and I have a couple of ideas that I might throw Joe's way when we get done. But yeah, I think that that's a great idea. I think that a live stream on Halloween would be cool. Halloween's a Monday, isn't it?
I don't know. I think it's a Sunday night, actually.
Is it a Sunday night?
Which
I
is
think it's a Monday.
Carries a little bit of weird paranormal weight to it. So,
but yeah, we'll definitely do that.
It's Monday night.
It's a Monday night.
Yeah.
See,
hey, but
same bat time, same bat channel.
We could do the 30th into the midnight at the 31st.
We could
on a Sunday. That's pretty cool.
We could do a Devil's Night stream.
Yeah, if there's any interest in that. So you guys let us know if that's something you're interested in doing. And thank you, buddy. If it had energy, I don't know how much energy we have sometimes because I'm pretty wiped out.
I'm pretty wiped out too. But we're working diligently, and I should have a new video out for you guys from our expedition over the past couple of days. It's going to be a killer one. It's going to be so much fun. You guys are going to really enjoy it. We get back to kind of our North Georgia Hellbent Holler roots.
And we get a lot of people who like diligently pour over the stuff we put online, video, audio. A lot of times we won't point certain things out just because we don't want to lead you into seeing stuff that we think we see. Now, the blatant stuff, yes, the Dogman image at LBL, stuff like that, we will put in there and go, this is what we saw. But certain stuff we don't want to predetermine your mind. Is that
no? We don't want to
prejudice you against
give you a bias. Put the idea out there, and then you see it. Plus, it's also kind of like a paranormal treasure hunt.
But people are really good about doing that, and I hope that everybody who does that really pays attention to the audio we're going to put up, because she and I are actually in disagreement over some of it, and we're just going to put it out. So some of those people out there that are just like total like Sherlock Holmes with this sort of stuff, we're really interested in what you hear and see in it. And,
yeah, we really want you guys to listen to this drop mic, the drop mic audio, and let us know what you hear, what you think it is, because I'm telling you, it's wild. I know we've hyped up this upcoming episode so much. It was pretty tense. So. I've already started with the edit on it, so we're hammering at it. But again, we really appreciate everything from you guys. We appreciate you guys watching the show, watching the live stream, commenting on everything we do. We're just sharing it, telling your friends about it, bringing your friends to the Hellbent Holler family. We love it. We appreciate every bit of it, guys. We love you guys to death. Does anybody have... Grace said she emailed us the giant story.
Oh, cool.
Sweet.
Yeah, and for last night, it's like I said, it's tense. You're going to see probably fewer like pre-recorded podcasts from us over the next 6 months, because we're going to try to juggle those with field investigations.
Yeah, so. We're probably not going to have as many podcasts, because we're going to have more field investigations, because we're back out in the field now. So that's what you're going to get. And again, I'm doing Wild and Weird October 14th and 15th. So if you guys are able to show up and come, please do. I'd love to meet you. I would love to meet you all. It would be a lot of fun. I'm speaking on the 15th. That's at Saturday for Wild and Weird Con. So check out Wild and Weird WV for information. And you can buy tickets at the door, and we'll be there. And it's such a beautiful park, and it's just going to be a great time. I'll be discussing LBL, Dogman. Joe will be there. And we'll have a table set up, and we'll be scurrying about the property. So Anything else, anybody?
I think that's it. So no podge, live shows are fun. Yeah, we enjoy doing this more just because it's more interactive. I mean, we'll do occasional podcasts still going forward. We'll probably do maybe 2 a month is what our plan is to do. Because I got a lot of topics that I want to talk about. She's got a lot of topics she wants to talk about that you don't normally see discussed on like these sorts of shows.
He and I have very different interests when it comes
Yeah.
to paranormal phenomenon or conspiracies or cryptids. He and I have different kind of avenues and interests. So it's kind of fun to bring those together and talk about topics that normally aren't discussed. A lot of time you have researchers that I am a Bigfoot researcher, but I can sit here, I can talk to you about Bigfoot, or I can talk to you about, again, the satanic government. So I'm really excited about doing more of those dark dives and really just going into odd directions that are kind of just unexpected. So we are gonna start to close her down here.
Yeah, we'll close it down. We appreciate you guys like riding with us on this.
I'm gonna let the chat run for a minute because I want you guys to all say goodnight to each other. We've had a great night, great conversation, and join us next Monday at 8 p.m. for another Hellbent Holler live. And we love you guys. We want to thank you guys for everything. And Joseph, any parting words?
Nope, that's it. Those of you who have sent us emails, we're working through them. Like I said, it's just we both work full-time jobs. This is over 40 hours a week for us, just doing this stuff. And there's a ton of messages to go through. So we'll get back to you. You know what I'm saying? So we're working our way through them. So
all right, guys, thank you so much. This has been another edition of Hellbent Holler Live.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much.